Chapter 399. Flower Girl. The Inscription Royal City was the greatest power of the Inscription Palace in the northern region. It was also the headquarters of the Inscription Palace in the northern region. It was very close to the road of the Thorny Devil, which meant that it was very close to the magical beast Desolate Land. The capital city built by the Divine Inscription Palace was very different from the other capital cities. This royal city did not have city walls. However, the entire city was surrounded by many round pillars that were over 100 meters tall. There was an invisible barrier here, just that it was invisible. There was no gate to the Inscription Royal City. The entrance was made by 2 square pillars. As long as there was a square pillar, it was equivalent to a gate. Although there were no city walls, the defense of the Inscription Royal City should be one of the strongest cities in the northern region. Qin Yun and Wei Zhongjing wore hoods and gray robes. They were dressed very inconspicuously. At the entrance, Wei Zhongjing used 100,000 purple crystal coins to buy a pass. As for Qin Yun, as long as he flashed his high-rank Spirit Inscription Master badge, he would be able to enter for free. After entering, Wei Zhongjing said unhappily, "This Inscription Royal City has really earned big. Every entry required 100,000 purple crystal coins. But sometimes you have no choice but to go in. So that's how it is. I thought that the pass could be used for a year." Qin Yun was somewhat surprised. One-time use. Wei Zhongjing looked at the towering tower in front of him and said, "That's the tower in the Inscription Manor. It's more than 1,000 meters tall. I wonder what's inside." Qin Yun said with a smile, "Sectmaster, let's go. I should be able to bring you to the Inscription Manor." Wei Zhongjing nodded. This was also the reason why he was willing to accompany Qin Yun. Qin Yun was a high-ranked Spirit Inscription Master, so it would be very convenient for him. The buildings in the Inscription Royal City were all simple and unadorned. There were many carvings of similar patterns, and most of them were made of bronze or ancient wood. The entire city looked very ancient, especially the huge stone bricks on the ground, which seemed to have been there for many years. Although this city was huge, it was relatively deserted compared to the other royal cities. Wei Zhongjing told Qin Yun that it was also because of this period of time that the number of people here gradually increased. Therefore, there weren't many shops and buildings in the city. Instead, he saw many gardens on the street. There were also rivers, lakes, and rockery. This Inscription Royal City was a huge garden. Although entering the Inscription Royal City required a high entrance fee of 100,000 purple coins, there would always be people coming in from time to time. That was because this was the headquarters of the Divine Inscription Palace. If they were to post a bounty for refining a Xian artifact here, there would definitely be a Xian Inscription Master who would help them refine it. However, they would need to wait for a very long time. Many martial Dao realm cultivators would come here to request to customize the first Xian artifact in their lives after accumulating enough purple coins. One had to know that many Xian Inscription Masters and sects usually only refine Xian artifacts for outstanding disciples. Most of the warriors who wanted to own a profound level weapon could only come here. Qin Yun also liked this kind of environment. He felt that he could come here often in the future to seek refuge. The Divine Inscription Palace is also a very large and mysterious power. Although they have built many Divine Inscription Palace, they have never had the intention to dominate. It seemed that it was only a gathering of many Inscription Masters or was responsible for issuing certificates to Inscription Masters. Of course, the Divine Inscription Palace also invisibly ruled over the order of the Inscription Masters. This was extremely powerful. Over the years, the Divine Inscription Palace had also absorbed many talented Inscription Masters and constantly developed powerful inscriptions. As for who created the Divine Inscription Palace, it was still a mystery to this day. Therefore, in the territory of the Divine Inscription Palace, there was no need to be afraid of Totem Pavilion. Qin Yun felt that with the scale of the Divine Inscription Palace, it might be a force that had developed from the Spirit Desolate Land. The inside of the Inscription Manor was no different from the outside. There were also many gardens and landscapes. The only difference was that only Inscription Masters could stay in. As for the others, they would need to pay a lot of purple coins to stay in the inscription manor. Staying in the inscription manor costs 10,000 purple coins a day. It's so expensive. Even though Wei Zhongjing was the sect leader, he felt that the price was too high. Of course, he had followed Qin Yan in and could stay for free. Furthermore, he was staying in a small building in the inscription manor. This was a treatment that could only be obtained with tens of thousands of purple coins a day. Even if it was a prince or a disciple of the royal city, they would still have to spend 100,000 purple coins to enter the inscription royal city. After all, only these people could afford to spend so many purple coins. After entering the city, in order to show off their status and strength, these people naturally had to stay in the inscription manor. Otherwise, if they met acquaintances in the city, they would be too embarrassed to greet them. Xiaoyan, I'm really basking in your light, Wei Zhongjing said cheerfully. He held a jade token that allowed him to enter and leave the inscription manor. It was free, Qin Yun said with a smile. Sect leader, is the treatment of your mysterious medicine villa really that bad? Of course. He's so stingy. Wei Zhongjing curled his lips. It's still better to be an inscription master. However, the threshold for an inscription master is much higher than an alchemist's. Wei Zhongjing made a gesture in the hall and said with a smile, I also have a few old friends here. I'll go see if they're all dead. You can walk around by yourself. You don't have to be afraid of Totem Pavilion in the territory of the Inscription Palace. Qin Yan nodded. Wei Zhongjing left the Inscription Manor full of confidence. Qin Yan also walked out of the small building and strolled alone in the garden of the Inscription Manor. The most important thing about the Inscription Manor was the giant tower that was more than 1,000 meters tall. The buildings in the garden were only used for accommodation. Other than that, there was a huge martial arts practice field to the south of the Inscription Manor. That place was used for martial arts competitions or large-scale competitions. Qin Yan lived on the east side of the Inscription Manor. The east side was filled with small buildings. On the west side, there were many pavilions. They were similar to inns and restaurants. They also provided lodging, but they were all rooms or suites. The west side was of a lower grade, but many princes and princesses lived in the west side. For example, even if one was willing to pay enough purple coins, they might not be able to stay in a small building. They needed a certain amount of status. Qin Yan felt that the east side was too deserted. He headed to the inns and restaurants in the west side to drink and chat with people. He was waiting for the Inscription Palace to begin its various activities. When he arrived at the west side, he saw a group of handsome men and beautiful women dressed in luxurious clothes in a garden. It seemed like they were surrounding a flower bed. He did not know what they were doing. Qin Yan was somewhat curious and hurriedly walked over. He saw a woman in a wrinkled white dress. She had a cloth wrapped around her head and was squatting beside a flower bed filled with orchids. Beside her, there was a coquettish woman wearing a luxurious blue dress. Her eyebrows were raised, and she had an arrogant air about her. Beside this woman, there were several young masters from famous sections. Their clothes were all very expensive. Furthermore, all of them were holding royal-grade spirit artifacts in their hands. It was obvious that they were a group of noble disciples from famous sections. Lowly servant, quickly raise your head. Don't think that I don't recognize you. The woman in the blue dress shouted coldly. When Qin Yan saw this scene, he was secretly infuriated as he squeezed through the crowd. He was wearing a hood and a robe. He looked like a wandering martial artist. Everyone only felt that it was strange. Why would such a person come to join in the fun? Even in the Inscription Manor, you are still so impudent, Qin Yan said with a deep voice. Upon hearing his voice, the woman who was squatting on the ground trembled. She hugged her head even tighter, not daring to raise her head. A golden-robed man walked up and shouted coldly at Qin Yan. Who are you? How dare you be impudent in front of the 90 princess of Songwu country? Another man walked up and sneered. You don't know Song Chenwei? She is the princess of Songwu country, and she is about to become the #1 beauty in the northern region. Qin Yan frowned. Although I don't know much, I have seen Feng Honglan before. How can you compare to Feng Honglan? Isn't the selection of the #1 beauty in the northern region held once every 100 years? Feng Honglan was selected a few years ago. Ha ha! Don't you know that the lowly servant squatting on the ground is Feng Honglan? Song Chunwei immediately laughed loudly. Everyone burst into laughter as well. Qin Yin was stunned. Feng Honglan had actually become a servant girl? Her proud red orchid martial spirit is gone. So she came here to plant flowers. It's just a lowly thing. For you to be able to enter the inscription manor, you also have some status. Why are you showing off for such a lowly thing? You don't know, right? Feng Honglan lost her red orchid martial spirit, and her face was also disfigured. That's why the inscription manor chose the #1 beauty in the northern region. Back then, Feng Honglan only relied on luck to become the #1 beauty in the northern region. That originally belonged to our princess Chunwei. Song Chunwei proudly put her hands on her hips and looked at Feng Honglan on the ground. She laughed shrilly and said, Feng Honglan, quickly raise your head and let everyone see your ugly appearance. Let everyone see how ugly the once #1 beauty of the northern region is now. After saying that, she suddenly stretched out her hand and grabbed Feng Honglan's long hair. When Qin Yin heard the words of those people, he was struck by a wave of anger and sadness. His mind went blank as he stood rooted to the ground. This was because he could guess that Feng Honglan had become like this because of the Sword Profound Mountain's revenge. Stop! Qin Yin roared angrily and slammed his palm on Song Chunwei's arm, shattering the bones. Then he slapped Song Chunwei's face. Ah! Song Chunwei let out a blood-curdling scream and was sent flying dozens of meters away, crashing into a rockery. Those young masters were dumbfounded. Someone actually dared to hit Song Chunwei, and with such ruthlessness. You must be tired of living. The few young masters immediately rushed forward. Although they were all at the martial Dao realm, their strength was far inferior to Qin Yin's. Pa 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 pa. Qin Yin quickly waved his hand like a flashing shadow. With afterimages, he slapped the faces of those young masters a few times before sending them flying. Princess Chunwei, are you all right? When a young master saw how powerful Qin Yin was, he did not dare to go up. Instead, he ran towards the fake mountain and shouted. A battle had broken out here, and the people from the inscription manor had also rushed over. Furthermore, they had alarmed the people in the restaurant. The onlookers immediately surrounded the garden. Chapter 400. Honglan Sar, to be able to enter the inscription manor, one had to have some ability. However, there were very few people who dared to cause trouble here. That was because everyone knew that one could not cause trouble in the inscription royal city. Otherwise, no one would be able to protect you. But now, someone had caused such a huge commotion here. He had sent a few people flying on the spot, and his attacks were extremely heavy. When everyone saw this, they began to criticize Qin Yin. Qin Yin stood in front of Feng Honglan, his heart in a mess. He did not know how to comfort Feng Honglan. Feng Honglan's appearance had been ruined, and her red orchid martial spirit was gone. This was a double blow. The only thing Qin Yin could do now was to do his best to prevent Feng Honglan from suffering any further injuries. The middle-aged man from the inscription manor looked at Qin Yin and asked in a deep voice, "Did you make the first move?" Qin Yin answered truthfully, "That's right, I was the one who made the first move. Then come with me obediently." The middle-aged man at the spirit realm looked at Song Chunwei and the others who were walking over and said, "You guys come as well. I will get to the bottom of this matter." Qin Yin said, "Uncle, may I ask if this woman is from your inscription manor?" He looked at Feng Honglan behind him. Yes, she was introduced by the divine sound Profound Mountain. She has a lot of experience in growing all kinds of flowers and plants. The middle-aged man nodded. Just now, it was this princess from Song Wu country who bullied the workers of your inscription manor and even made a move on them. That's why I made a move, Qin Yin said. The middle-aged man looked at Song Chunwei, whose face was swollen, and asked with a frown, "Princess Wei Chun, is there such a thing?" Song Chunwei covered her face and looked at Qin Yin with anger. "She's just a lowly slave. So what if I kill her? I am the dignified princess of Song Wu country. Even if I kill 10 or 100 of these lowly slaves, I don't need to take any responsibility. The expression of the middle-aged man from the inscription manor changed as he said, "Firstly, she is not a slave. Secondly, even if she is a slave, she is still a member of our inscription manor. Why do you have to bully her?" Qin said, "Uncle, you saw it too? They are all a bunch of unreasonable and arrogant playboys. I had no choice but to attack them. Bastard, who the hell are you? How dare you offend this princess?" Song Chenwei looked at Qin Yun and cursed loudly. Qin Yun lifted his hood and said, "I am a disciple of the Nine Extinction Profound Gate, Qin Yun." Even if the people here had never seen Qin Yun before, they had definitely heard of his name. At that moment, all of them took a few steps back. In the northern region, there was absolutely no one who dared to impersonate Qin Yun. Therefore, everyone believed that the young and handsome man in front of them was Qin Yun. Song Chenwei's face also revealed a trace of fear. Right now, the entire northern desolate land knew how powerful the Nine Extinction Profound Gate was. This was because Wei Zhongjing had killed the martial king of the Fire King sect, and his head was even hanging outside the Nine Extinction Gate. Rumor has it that Feng Honglan was crippled by the people of the Sword Profound Mountain. It was because she sold the purple frost mysterious grass that the Nine Extinction sect leader recovered from his injuries. Qin Yun is so protective of Feng Honglan. Could it be that Qin Yun bought the purple frost mysterious grass from her? No matter what, the Divine Sound Profound Mountain is still a Xian sect, but someone actually crippled such an outstanding disciple. Divine Sound Profound Mountain is too useless. What do you know? Feng Honglan gave up her purple frost mysterious grass to allow Wei Zhongjing to recover from his injuries and become a martial king. Then, she killed the Heavenly Fire Martial King and went against Totem Pavilion. The reason why the Sword Profound Mountain dared to cripple Feng Honglan is because they have the support of the Fire King sect and Totem Pavilion. The Sword Profound Mountain has the support of the mighty Heavenly Royal Clan. The Divine Sound Profound Mountain does not have a martial king, so they can only admit defeat. When Qin Yun heard the whispers of the crowd, he clenched his fists tightly. This was all because of the Totem Pavilion. The middle-aged man from the inscription manor was also slightly surprised. So this woman is actually Feng Honglan. For the Divine Sound Profound Mountain to send her here, it could be considered as giving her a good home. "Uncle, these people are bullying the workers of your inscription manor. How should we deal with them?" Qin Yun said, "Each of you will be beaten 100 times and expelled from the inscription manor." The middle-aged man said, "Everyone, you can all disperse." When Song Chenwei heard this, she immediately shouted in anger. She couldn't believe that she was going to be beaten 100 times. She was an incomparably noble princess. "All of you obediently accept your punishment. Otherwise, I guarantee that you won't be able to leave the inscription manor. Follow me." With his hands behind his back, the middle-aged man walked towards a black iron building in the distance. Song Chenwei's delicate body trembled slightly. Her eyes were filled with incomparable hatred as she glared at Qin Yun before following the middle-aged man away. The onlookers could be considered to have completely witnessed the strength of the Inscription Palace. In order to protect the dignity of the Inscription Palace, even the princess of the Martial Kingdom would not be spared. "Honglan, come," Qin Yun said in a low voice as he helped Feng Honglan up. Feng Honglan resisted Qin Yun somewhat. She did not want Qin Yun to see her in such a miserable state. When everyone saw Feng Honglan's tightly wrapped face, revealing only a pair of eyes, they could not help but sigh in their hearts. Previously, many young masters had tried to curry favor with the #1 beauty of the northern region, but now she had become so miserable. The disciples of the famous sects who had pursued her back then all acted as if they did not know her. "Honglan, believe me, I will make you better." Qin Yun held Feng Honglan's hand and said with a resolute tone. Feng Honglan, who had been resisting Qin Yun, suddenly quietened down. Her bright eyes were also filled with tears. "Let's go." Qin Yun pulled her towards the east district of the inscription manor. Everyone sighed inwardly. Qin Yun was actually so loyal. He did not kick Feng Honglan away. After Qin Yun and Feng Honglan left, someone said in surprise, "The direction they're heading in is the East District, right? Not just anyone can go to the East District. What right does Qin Yun have to go to the East District? Could he be an inscription master? Impossible to stay in the East District. One must be a high-level spirit inscription master. He's only around 20 years old. How could he be a high-level spirit inscription master?" As the crowd was bewildered, they dispersed and returned to the restaurant to drink. Qin Yun brought Feng Honglan into the small building. After Feng Honglan sat down, she looked around. Her eyes were filled with surprise. She never expected Qin Yun to be able to stay in such a high-end place. "Honglan, was it done by the sword Profound Mountain?" Qin Yun asked with some sadness. After a moment of silence, Feng Honglan said, "Qin Yun, thank you very much. You still treat me as a friend. Let bygones be bygones." Qin Yun also knew that Feng Honglan did not want to implicate him. Back then, Feng Honglan had risked her life to save him and Hong Mengshu. Although she was a woman, she was filled with chivalry. Qin Yun would never abandon such a friend. "Good. Let me see your martial spirit first." Qin Yun walked over and placed his hand on her abdomen to probe the situation within her Dao core. Feng Honglan's Dao core had many cracks, and there was no aura of a martial spirit inside. Without a martial spirit to condense a powerful inner force, it would be impossible to repair the Dao core. "Your martial spirit has been taken away." Qin Yun's expression was solemn. The other party used a soul extraction technique. It was definitely not done by the sword Profound Mountain. Now, he seemed to understand why Feng Honglan told Qin Yun not to pursue the matter. "Is it Totem Pavilion?" Feng Honglan nodded slightly. Qin Yun clenched his fists tightly and said, "Honglan, can you let me see the wound on your face?" "No, I don't look good right now." Feng Honglan hurriedly shook her head. Qin Yun smiled faintly. "A beautiful heart is the most beautiful. I just want to see if there's any way to treat the wound on your face." Feng Honglan hesitated for a moment before finally pulling off the cloth on her face. She tilted her head, not daring to look into Qin Yun's eyes. She was worried that she would see disgust in Qin Yun's eyes. However, she could not help but take a look. She saw a look of heartache and anger on Qin Yun's face. Feng Honglan's face and forehead were covered in black scars. "This seems to be a type of poison," Qin Yun said angrily. "It should also be done by Totem Pavilion." When Feng Honglan saw how concerned Qin Yun was for her, she could not help but feel much better. However, she still hurriedly wrapped up her face. "Honglan, how did they extract your martial spirit back then?" Qin Yun asked. "They came to the divine sound Profound Mountain and captured me. They said that they would not kill me and would only punish me. Because we are facing Totem Pavilion, my sect can only agree." When Feng Honglan mentioned this matter, her face was filled with helplessness and sorrow. "After I was tied up by them, a black-clothed old man took out a small snake and pointed it at my abdomen. After that little snake opened its mouth, it spat out a black mist. That mist entered my Dao core and wrapped around the red orchid martial spirit inside. Then, that old man pulled the little snake with great force and pulled out the red orchid martial spirit. At that time, I fainted from the pain. When I woke up, my face was also covered in black poison scars. My master felt very guilty towards me. He said that I had been expelled from the divine sound Profound Mountain. Later on, he brought me here and arranged a job for me so that I could spend the rest of my life here in peace." Qin Yun paced back and forth in the hall and asked Mo about some things. He also learned that the small snake was a strange beast from the magical desolate land. It was called the soul-devouring spirit snake, and it could suck out a person's martial spirit. It was a very rare spirit beast. These fellows from Totem Pavilion sure have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. Qin Yun was infuriated. "Qin Yun, is my martial spirit unable to recover?" Feng Honglan also had deep feelings for her red orchid martial spirit. "As long as my red orchid martial spirit comes back, it doesn't matter if I look a little ugly. Qin Yun sighed. The red orchid martial spirit does not have any aura left in the Dao core. I am unable to regenerate the red orchid martial spirit. However, I can get other martial spirits in. That's fine too. At least I don't have to live a mediocre life. Feng Honglan hurriedly nodded and said, when I earn purple coins in the future, I will thank you. We are friends, what is there to thank? Qin Yun took out a platinum water martial spirit and said, the water martial spirit is a relatively docile martial spirit. I'll first get your Dao core in and let it recover from its injuries. Feng Honglan nodded. Qin Yun walked over and began using the soul shifting art. However, Feng Honglan's Dao core did not accept the water martial spirit at all. Chapter 401. Wrath of the Martial King. When Feng Honglan saw Wei Zhongjing, she stood up in panic and said in a low voice, greetings, senior. It's still a little girl. Hello. You don't have to be so polite. Sit down. Wei Zhongjing didn't put on any airs and said with a smile. This caused Feng Honglan to be a little surprised because the elders and headmasters of the sect were all filled with dignity. She had also heard that Wei Zhongjing had killed the Heavenly Fire Martial King, so she felt that Wei Zhongjing was a relatively fierce person. Now that she had seen Wei Zhongjing with her own eyes, she discovered that he was a very lively and kind old man. Wei Zhongjing took out a lot of fruits and placed them on the table. He said with a smile, I just want to see a few old friends, and took them back from them. They're all quite expensive. Quickly eat. Sect leader, she is Honglan. Qin Yun said. Her crimson orchid martial spirit was taken away by that fellow from Totem Pavilion. Her face was also disfigured by Totem Pavilion's poison. This should be what the sword Profound Mountain told Totem Pavilion to do. Wei Zhongjing, who was originally grinning, was stunned for a moment before he immediately flew into a rage. These bastards from the sword Profound Mountain. I'll go flatten them right now. Wei Zhongjing had previously learned from Qin Yun that it was because Feng Honglan had given him the purple frost mysterious grass that his injuries had healed. Otherwise, Qin Yun did not know how long he would have to buy the purple frost mysterious grass. Feng Honglan was secretly moved in her heart. She did not expect Wei Zhongjing to be so angry about this matter. Sect leader, take a look at Honglan's injuries first. Her Dao core is seriously injured. Qin Yun said. Wei Zhongjing suppressed the anger in his heart and walked over to investigate the situation of Feng Honglan's Dao core. It is indeed very heavy, but it can still be cured. It's just that without a martial spirit, it's more troublesome. I originally planned to move the other martial spirits in, but the Dao core is very repulsive, so I can't do it. Qin Yun said. The Dao core formed by a red variant martial spirit is indeed like this. If the red orchid martial spirit is gone, the Dao core will not accept any martial spirits. Wei Zhongjing's expression was solemn. It looks like I have to kill my way to Totem Pavilion and snatch back the red orchid martial spirit. Senior, there's no need. If Totem Pavilion finds out that you're here for this matter, they'll definitely use this to threaten you. Let's think of another way. Feng Honglan also knew how terrifying Totem Pavilion was. It was a powerful force with many martial kings. Miss Feng, let me cure your Dao core first. In any case, I won't let them off. Wei Zhongjing was originally in a good mood. Now that he saw Feng Honglan's situation, his heart was filled with anger. Wei Zhongjing used the powerful strength of a martial king to quickly repair Feng Honglan's martial spirit. Then, he looked at the poison scar on Feng Honglan's face. Those guys are really vicious. This is a taboo poison, the ancient demonic spider blood poison. Wei Zhongjing was even more furious. Is there a way to get rid of it? Qin Yun asked. You need to use the exquisite profound fruit to refine a medicinal liquid that seeps into the skin and flesh to completely expel the poison. Wei Zhongjing said, the exquisite profound fruit is harder to find, but it's not like it doesn't exist. Don't worry, it can still be cured. Qin Yun immediately felt a lot more at ease. He said, I can entrust the inscription palace to help me investigate the whereabouts of the exquisite profound fruit. I also want to make a trip to the Sword Profound Mountain. After Wei Zhongjing finished speaking, he quickly walked out of the small building. Feng Honglan stood up anxiously and was about to chase after him when she realized that Wei Zhongjing had already walked far away. Qinyan, why didn't you stop Senior Wei? Qinyan was not worried about Wei Zhongjing. He patted Feng Honglan's shoulder and said, I can't stop him either. Don't worry. The sect leader is only going to deal with the Sword Profound Mountain. The Sword Profound Mountain would never have thought that the sect leader would stand up for you. Honglan, it's best if you don't go out. I'll go and entrust the Inscription Palace to help me investigate the whereabouts of the exquisite profound fruit. Thank you so much. Feng Honglan was very touched, and her eyes were filled with tears. Why are you being so polite? Oh right, Honglan, did you see Aunt Xiao in the Divine Sound Profound Mountain? Qin Yun asked with a smile. I saw her. I chatted with her for a long time. I never expected her to be such a good person. Furthermore, she also advised me to leave the Divine Sound Profound Mountain as soon as possible. It's all my fault for not listening to her. Feng Honglan sighed. Qin Yun asked, is she still in the Divine Sound Profound Mountain? Feng Honglan shook her head. I don't know either. She said that when her cultivation is about done, she will leave the Divine Sound Profound Mountain. Then you should go rest first. Qin Yun sent her into a room before walking out of the small building. The tall tower of the Inscription Manor was the Divine Inscription Palace here. The lower floors were all responsible for various matters. For example, receiving inscription masters, selling all kinds of weapons, spirit talismans, and array formations. The moment Qin Yun arrived, he saw many people gathered in the hall on the first floor, looking at something. He was not interested and did not go over. Instead, he went to a counter and asked a middle-aged woman, Annie, help me find out where the exquisite profound fruit is. With that, he took out his badge. When the woman saw Qin Yun, who was wearing a bamboo hat and a robe, she only felt that he was relatively young. She did not ask for his name and immediately nodded. I will record it down. You can come here every 3 days to inquire about the results. All right, I'll be troubling you, Qin Yun said. You're welcome. This is what we should do. The middle-aged woman smiled. She rarely met a spirit inscription master with such a good attitude. Just as Qin Yun was about to walk out of the first level, he heard a familiar voice. He suddenly looked toward the place in the hall that was surrounded by people. Do you see that? There's a rank 3 life marks crystal jade in this stone. I've won. All of you, quickly kneel down and call me Grand Aunt. Xiao Yuanmei giggled as she shouted. Princess Wushuang, we were just joking. You don't have to take it seriously. That's right. I never thought that Princess Wushuang's gambling skills would be so good to actually be so clear about the life marks crystal jade in the stone. Princess Wushuang, you're really amazing. We've lost wholeheartedly. Xiao Yuanmei coldly snorted. Didn't you guys say it before? If I lose, I will strip naked. If you lose, you will kneel down and call me Grand Aunt. Why are you going back on your word now? When Qin Yun heard Xiao Yuanmei's voice, he hurriedly walked over. He knew that Xiao Yuanmei was tormenting people again. The young masters were put in a difficult position. How dare you offend me? Princess Wushuang. I am Princess Wushuang of the whole Wu country of the eastern region. You fellows from the northern region, why don't you go and ask around about my reputation in the eastern region? How dare you lie to me? Xiao Yuanmei's beautiful face was ice cold. Qin Yun snickered in his heart. Xiao Yuanmei was actually pretending to be a princess again. This time, she was pretending to be a princess of a martial kingdom in the eastern region. The few young masters immediately knelt on a pile of rocks and shouted for their grand aunt. They were just some disciples of the celestial sect of wonders. The consequences of offending the princess of a martial kingdom were extremely serious. Xiao Yuanmei laughed coldly. This princess has lived for hundreds of years. I'm not someone that can be deceived by brats like you. All of you scram far away. After saying that, she stored a large piece of Life Mark's crystal jade into her storage spirit artifact and swaggered out. There would be many lively events held in the Inscription Royal City. Xiao Yuanmei would definitely not miss them. so it was not strange for her to appear here. Qinyan quietly followed behind her. Xiao Yuanmei was walking towards the Western Palace. She seemed to have noticed that someone was following him. Which scoundrel are you sneakily following this princess? What business do you have? Xiao Yuanmei suddenly turned around and looked at Qinyan. This princess has lived for 800 years, but I've never met anyone who dares to follow me like this. Damn girl, don't pretend in front of me, Qinyan said with a low laugh. He really could not understand how Xiao Yuanmei could deceive so many people. Brother, Xiao Yuanmei immediately looked around and realized that there was no one around. Then she skipped over. Qinyan said with a smile, "You little girl, you really know how to spout nonsense. The miraculous thing is that those guys actually believed it." Xiao Yuanmei mischievously stuck out her tongue and said with a charming smile, "I am a princess to begin with. Furthermore, those guys are too easily fooled by me. Brother, do you live in the East District? That's a high-class area. Quickly take me there." All right. Qinyan pulled her along and quickly walked towards the East District. At the entrance to the high-class area, Qinyan had someone get her an access sign. He was a high-ranked spirit inscription master, so he could get the Divine Inscription Palace to give him 5 jade tokens. Xiao Yuanmei held the jade token and said with a chuckle, "That's great. This way, I won't have to live in the noisy Western District. That's where a bunch of trash live." Qinyan could not help but laugh. Many of the princes and princesses of the Martial Kingdom and the disciples of the king-level sects were in the Western District. As for Xiao Yuanmei, she treated them as trash. The location of the small building that Qinyan was in was also very good. It was near a pond, and there was a garden nearby. The scenery was very good. The moment Xiao Yuanmei entered, she took out her mirror and said, "Brother, I can now make my mirror provide me with the power of 3 martial spirits. In other words, I am a person with 3 martial spirits." 3 martial spirits? Qinyan could not help but be alarmed. Xiao Yuanmei's mirror martial spirit was also a very heaven-defying existence. It could preserve many martial spirits. As long as she needed the power of that martial spirit, she could switch over. Her mirror martial spirit had reflected many martial spirits. As for how many there were, even she did not know. Feng Honglan, who was in her room, heard the noise outside and walked out. She still wrapped her head tightly, revealing only her eyes. When she came to the hall and saw Xiao Yuanmei, her eyes revealed a look of surprise. "It's you, your big sister Honglan." When Xiao Yuanmei saw Feng Honglan's eyes, she happily jumped out of her seat and came to Feng Honglan's side. Qinyan was taken aback. He never expected that Xiao Yuanmei would recognize Feng Honglan. Furthermore, she recognized her with just her eyes. "Hello, Princess Yuanmei." Feng Honglan never expected that Qinyan and Xiao Yuanmei would know each other. Xiao Yuanmei frowned slightly and said, "Big sister Honglan, why are you wrapped up? Also, I can't feel your martial spirit anymore. What's wrong with you?" Qinyan hurriedly pulled her over and told Xiao Yuanmei the situation. When Xiao Yuanmei heard this, she flew into a rage and wished that she could kill her way to the Sword Profound Mountain. Chapter 402. Hand in hand, Xiao Yuanmei held Feng Honglan's hand with a pained expression. It could be seen that she was also very concerned about Feng Honglan. "Yuanmei, when did you and Honglan meet?" Qinyan asked curiously. "Back then, in a large mountain outside the divine, sound, profound mountain, I was besieged by a few old bandits of the martial Dao realm. It was Sister Honglan who helped me." Xiao Yuanmei bit her lips in sadness and said, "I didn't expect that after not seeing you for so long, big sister Honglan's cultivation would disappear." Feng Honglan caressed Xiao Yuanmei's lovely face and said with a chuckle, "Yuanmei, I'm fine. I am very satisfied that you are so concerned about me." Xiao Yuanmei took out her mirror martial spirit. After closing her eyes, a beautiful red orchid appeared in the mirror. "Sister Honglan, I made this according to your martial spirit, but I can't make it for you." Qinyan looked at the beautiful red orchid in the mirror and suddenly had a strange idea. He wanted to extract the martial spirit from Xiao Yuanmei's mirror. Feng Honglan's beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at the red orchid martial spirit. Feeling the familiar aura, she could not help but become slightly excited. I'm very happy that I can still see her. She caressed the red orchid on the mirror and said sadly, I've mastered the soul refining art. Why don't we join hands and see if we can get the martial spirit out of the mirror? Qin Yun's eyes are filled with excitement. Maybe we can help Honglan reconstruct her martial spirit. Xiao Yuemei doesn't dare to believe it and promptly asked, Brother, how should I cooperate? Let me think. Qin Yun stroked his chin as he paced back and forth. After a moment, he said, I'll try to see if I can sense the red orchid martial spirit through your mirror. Xiao Yuemei nodded and handed over the mirror. This mirror is Xiao Yuemei's martial spirit. It is a very mystical existence. It is similar to Xiao Wufeng's origin sword. After Qin Yun received it, he released a special mental power to sense the mirror martial spirit. That kind of special mental power was cultivated by him through the soul refining technique. As long as he sensed a martial spirit, he could extract it. Not long after, Qin Yun sensed the aura of the red orchid martial spirit, but he did not immediately extract it. This was because the red orchid martial spirit and the mirror martial spirit were connected and could not be separated. The current situation was that Xiao Yuemei's miraculous mirror martial spirit could produce the power of the red orchid martial spirit. It was not the true red orchid martial spirit. It was only a temporary red orchid martial spirit. Feng Honglan sat by the side and watched with wide eyes. She also hoped that Qin Yun would succeed. Qin Yun returned the mirror martial spirit to Xiao Yuemei and said, Yuemei, release the red orchid martial spirit's energy with all your strength. It will be best if you can release a large amount of soul power. I will give a try. Xiao Yuemei tightly grabbed the handle of the mirror and frowned. Suddenly, traces of red mist seeped out of the mirror. When Qin Yun saw it, he was pleasantly surprised. He quickly took out a soul-sealing pearl and channeled the power of the red orchid martial spirit that overflowed from the mirror into the pearl. Yuemei, if this continues, it won't affect you, right? Qin Yun asked. Of course there's no effect. It's just a loss of energy. I can recover after resting for a while. Xiao Yuemei laughed lightly. As long as I can help Big Sister Honglan, I'm willing to do anything. Yuemei, thank you. Feng Honglan was very touched. Big Sister Honglan, I haven't thanked you for saving me last time. If it wasn't for your kind intentions to save me, I might have been killed by those bandits. Xiao Yuemei smiled sweetly at Feng Honglan. Don't worry, my brother is very powerful. He will definitely think of a way to help you recover. Qin Yun held the soul-sealing pearl and released his mental energy, channeling the power of his martial spirit into it. After all, it was only soul power. It was still far from a true martial spirit. Feng Honglan asked softly, Yuemei, have you known Qin Yun for a long time? He's also my brother-in-law. Xiao Yuemei smiled. I never thought that he would have a wife. Feng Honglan said in surprise. My sister is also a very good person. If there's a chance in the future, I'll introduce her to you. Xiao Yuemei said sweetly. That's right, Xiao, Xin in the Divine Sound Profound Mountain is my aunt. You should know her. Feng Honglan nodded. She suddenly felt that Xiao Yuemei and Qin Yun were very mysterious. Not only were they talented, their relationship was also very good. At this moment, she also wanted to meet Qin Yun's wife. She felt that a woman who could become Qin Yun's wife was definitely not simple. Just like that, Xiao Yuemei continued to release soul power for 2 days. However, it only caused the soul-sealing pearl to emit a faint red light. The color is still so light. I have to continue. Xiao Yuemei looked at the soul-sealing pearl in Qin Yun's hand and waved the mirror in her hand. Go rest first. Qin Yun smiled. We'll talk after you recover. Xiao Yuemei yawned and looked very tired. She only laid on the chair and closed her eyes to sleep. She did not return to her room. Honglan, I'll try to channel this strand of soul power into your Tao core and see how it goes. Qin Yun said. Feng Honglan nodded and lifted her clothes, revealing her slender waist. Qin Yun rubbed it a few times and injected a special mental force to open a soul path. Then he guided the soul power in the soul sealing pearl into Feng Honglan's Tao core. The soul power, condensed from the power of the red orchid martial spirit, also had the foundation of a martial spirit. After entering the Tao core, it very naturally floated inside. Great! The next step is to let this strand of martial spirit grow up quickly. Qin Yun smiled. I should be able to succeed. I'll rest first. Good. Then I'll carry Yuma in first and let her rest well. Feng Honglan also saw hope, and her mood immediately became extremely good. She gently carried Xiao Yuma and walked into the room. Qin Yun took a light breath and took out an empty soul sealing pearl. He forced out the power of his purple gold thunder soul. He wanted to see if he could condense a soul strand onto the soul sealing pearl. However, he did not succeed. It seems that only Yume's mirror martial spirit can extract a trace of her martial spirit. This little girl's mirror martial spirit is simply too astonishing. Qin Yun immediately thought of many things. He felt that if he were to join forces with Xiao Yume in the future, he might be able to create many powerful martial spirits. As long as Xiao Yume knew someone and had a good relationship with them, she would use a mirror to look at their martial spirit and record it in the mirror. Therefore, she collected many messy martial spirits. She had looked at the Golden Fire Lion's Golden Sun martial spirit and Yangshi Yu's Purple Moon martial spirit. With her cooperating with my soul refining technique, wouldn't I be able to obtain a lot of rare martial spirits? When Qin Yun thought of this, he became extremely excited. He rested for half a day and recovered. Although Xiao Yume had consumed a lot of energy after resting, she was able to jump out of the room. Let's enter the secret room this time, Qin Yun said. I want to go too. I'll watch from the side and not speak. Xiao Yume said. Feng Honglan saw that Qin Yun was a little nervous and said, Qin Yun, you don't have to put pressure on yourself. Regardless of whether you succeed or not, you are the best soul refiner. Feng Honglan had also heard of the mysterious soul refiner. After Qin Yun and the two girls entered the secret chamber, they took out 3 platinum and 2 purple gold-ranked soul sealing pearls. Now, I need to refine the martial spirit inside into a pure martial spirit and then guide it into your dantian for the red orchid martial spirit inside to absorb. Qin Yun took a deep breath and took out the dragon suppression cauldron. He reduced the dragon suppression cauldron to the size of an incense burner and placed the martial spirits inside. Those martial spirits were all relatively common elemental martial spirits. Qin Yun did not feel any heartache, as he would have plenty of opportunities to obtain them in the future. After he used the soul refining technique to refine them, he condensed a ball of white mist. It was a pure martial spirit that contained an extremely strong martial spirit energy. Honglan, let's begin, Qin Yun said with a serious expression. Feng Honglan lifted her clothes and closed her eyes slightly, relaxing her entire body. Qin Yun guided the pure martial spirit energy into Feng Honglan's Tao core. Then he used the soul refining technique to refine the martial spirit energy within her Tao core. At this moment, he also needed to guide the red orchid martial spirit to absorb the large mass of pure martial spirit energy. After half a day of guidance, the red orchid martial spirit had become much stronger. Under Qin Yun's guidance, Feng Honglan established a connection with the red orchid martial spirit. She could also control the circulation of the red orchid martial spirit and absorb the martial spirit's energy. Honglan, you'll have to rely on yourself next, Qin Yun said. Thank you all. I will definitely work hard to recover. Feng Honglan could once again feel the familiar red orchid martial spirit and was extremely happy. Qin Yun pulled Xiao Yume out of the secret chamber. I'm going to the Divine Inscription Palace to ask about the whereabouts of the exquisite profound fruit. Are you coming with me? Qin Yun looked at Xiao Yume. No, I want to stay here and guard. Xiao Yume really wanted to go, but she thought that once she left, there would be no one to protect Feng Honglan, so she didn't go. Qin Yun said with a smile, Good girl, I'll be back soon. On the first floor of the Divine Inscription Palace, there were many young masters gambling on stones, so it was very lively. This was also the reason why the Divine Inscription Palace had deliberately gotten so many stones to make a killing. The last time Qinyan came, he had met Xiao Yueme gambling on stones here. However, there weren't that many people at that time, and today there were many more people than last time. There were thousands of people here. Qinyan went to the counter and found the middle-aged woman to ask about the exquisite profound fruit. I'm really sorry, there's no news for the time being. I will send it to multiple Divine Inscription Palace and continue to inquire about it. Come back in 5 days. The middle-aged woman said apologetically. It doesn't matter. After all, the exquisite profound fruit is also a rare profound medicine. Qinyan only sighed in disappointment. Following that, he entered the crowd to see if there was anyone he knew here. Originally, he only wanted to take a look, but he never expected to actually see a familiar figure. Morong Shaoran, can you do it? If you're wrong, I'm going to lose miserably. The one who spoke was Hong Yen. He was actually walking together with Murong Darren. The two of them were carrying a large piece of blue stone. It should be the ore they had just bought. Hong Yen and Murong Darren were both wearing the same grayish-blue clothes. The clothes were embroidered with many beasts bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws. These were the clothes of the violent beast profound sect. Chapter 403. The three desolate competition Qin Yin only knew that Murong Darren's martial spirit was a beast martial spirit. He did not know what kind of martial spirit it was and had always been curious about it. Murong Darren took out a knife and slowly cut open the blue rock. The onlookers also watched quietly. Hong Yin, who was beside Murong Darren, was sweating profusely. His mouth was wide open as he stared nervously at the stone. The blue stone was half the height of a person. Murong Darren was about to cut to the center, but no life marks crystal jade appeared. In other words, even if there was a life marks crystal jade, it would be a very small piece. Hong Yin was in despair. Got it! Murong Darren suddenly shouted in shock. Sure enough, everyone saw a white life marks crystal jade in the middle of the stone. Murong Darren used a lot of strength to take out the life marks crystal spirit. It was only the size of an apple, and it was very light, which meant that it contained very little energy. Rank 4 life marks crystal jade, half a gene. Murong Darren did not dare to look at Hong Yan. The corner of Hong Yan's mouth twitched as he angrily grabbed Murong Darren's collar. He roared, Murong Duck, didn't you just say that there is a level 5 crystal jade inside? And it weighs at least 8 gene. I bought this stone for 2 million purple coins. There's only 1 gene of level 4 crystal jade inside. I can only sell it for 400,000 purple coins. Hong Yin had suffered a huge loss. This was something that everyone was happy to see. At least if you sell this crystal jade, you'll still have 400,000 purple coins. You won't lose everything. Murong Darren cursed. That's how stone gambling is. I can't guarantee that I'll be right every time. Hong Yin cursed in a low voice. You bastard, you're pissing me off. With that, he squeezed out of the crowd and walked out of the hall. Murong Darren followed behind him and shouted, Red-eyed chicken, wait for me. You said you would treat me to a meal. I've lost so badly. Treat your grandpa. Hong Yin was filled with anger as he quickly walked out of the Divine Inscription Palace. Qinyan followed behind them and walked outside. He said with a smile, Then, I'll treat you to a drink. Murong Darren and Hong Yin were very familiar with Qinyan's voice. They had originally been arguing, but now they hurriedly turned their heads to look behind them. Brother Yun, Murong Darren exclaimed in joy. Hong Yin also smiled in surprise. You're here too. Qinyan laughed. I didn't expect you two to actually know each other. Let's go. I'll treat you to a drink. They all knew that Qinyan was an inscription master and had preferential treatment in the territory of the Divine Inscription Palace. Thus, they did not stand on ceremony and brought Qinyan to the highest grade hotel. The hotel was also in the 1,000-meter-tall inscription tower, more than 100 floors above. You guys really didn't hold back with me. In the private room, Qin Yun looked at the prices on the menu and could not help but raise his eyebrows. They were all dishes worth 4 to 5,000 purple coins. Mu Rongjun and Hong Yin didn't stand on ceremony at all. They ordered more than 20 dishes in one go and began to eat and drink heartily. Seventh Prince, why did you go to the wild beast profound sect? You have a beast martial spirit? Qin Yun asked curiously. My dragonflame martial spirit is somewhat similar to a dragon, so I went. My royal father has a good relationship with the wild beast profound sect, so my days there are better. Hong Yin said. Mu Rongjun curled his lips and said, You bastard who relies on your father. If it wasn't for your royal father, you would definitely have a hard time in the wild beast profound sect. Third brother who didn't come? Qin Yun asked. He's very diligent. He goes out to train all day and fights magical beasts. Mu Rongjun said, I can't keep up with his pace. Hong Yin said, Huizhong is indeed hard-working. Although his strength isn't high, he is definitely the most diligent one. On the other hand, you, Murong Duck, are just lazy. No matter how you look at it, you look like you're just wasting your time. At the very least, I stepped into the martial Dao realm before the age of 30. Am I just wasting my time? Mu Rongjun was unconvinced as he pointed at Hong Yin with his chopsticks. Seeing that they were about to quarrel, Qin Yun hurriedly said, Princess Mengshu didn't come? Is her injury all right? Hong Yin said, She will definitely come. She came with my royal father and should still be on the way. The sect masters and elders of the various sects and the martial kings of the martial kingdom might all be gathered here. Qin Yun said in surprise, Is the event in the inscription royal city so important? You don't know how important this time is. Hong Yin said, Especially the third level of the martial Dao realm. It's especially important. At that time, our northern region will decide on the strongest third-level martial Dao realm martial artist. I also heard that when the time comes, you will represent the northern region and fight against the warriors of the other 3 regions, right? Qin Yun said. Hong Yin burped and said, It's not our martial desolate 4 prefectures fighting. It's our martial desolate 4 prefectures competing with the fellows from the magical desolate and demon desolate. It's said that the final victor will be able to enter that ancient garden. Qin Yun had just picked up a piece of meat when he heard this. He was stunned. Ancient garden? You can enter as you please? He asked curiously. Hong Yin said, My royal father said that when the time comes, these martial kings will join hands to open the gate to the ancient garden. As long as you have the ancient garden pass, you will be able to enter. That's right, people who have formed the 4th life mark are not allowed to enter. As for why, I'm not sure either. Furthermore, when they open the gate to the ancient garden, only one person can enter. The ancient garden is extremely mysterious. It can only be opened once every 1,000 years. Murong Darren asked, How do I obtain the ancient garden pass? After entering, can I still come out? Hong Yin said, I heard that you'll be out after a year. Furthermore, after you come out, you can't talk about what happened inside. You have to keep a secret. As for the ancient garden pass, as long as a few powers have it, our Hongwu country doesn't have it. However, those king-level sects do. Therefore, if the final victor is not from a king-level sect, then you must enter a king-level sect and obtain the pass they provide in order to enter the ancient garden. Otherwise, it would be a waste of an opportunity. Murong Darren curled his lips and said, Brother Yun, if you really get first place, I'm afraid you'll have to join a king-level sect. You're a disciple of the 9 Extinction Gate now, so you shouldn't be going to other sects, right? Let's talk about it when I really get first place. I am only at the 2nd level of the martial Dao realm, and my opponents are definitely outstanding disciples of king-level sects. The experts of the magical desolate and demon desolate are definitely very strong as well. I don't even know if I can win. Qin Yin smiled. Hong Yin said, It's also possible that we don't need to be first. I remember my father saying that sometimes when the gate to an ancient garden is opened, there will be a message that allows more people to enter. There was once a time when 5 or 6 people entered. Murong Darren said with a smile, Brother Yun, Although you are at the second level of the martial Dao realm, you have 2 Dao cores. You are still very strong. You have to have some confidence in yourself. That's right. In a one-on-one fight, even a martial artist at the 3rd level of the martial body might not be your match. Hong Yin also felt that Qin Yun had a chance of obtaining a higher ranking. Second brother Morong, what exactly is your martial spirit? Is it strong? Qin Yun asked. He wanted Xiao Yuanmei to take a look at Murong Daren's martial spirit. Hong Yin said with a laugh, Qin Yun, you've known Murong Duck for so long, but you don't know his martial spirit? Let me tell you, his martial spirit is purple gold rank, but it's just a duck. Murong Daren glared fiercely at Hong Yin. Red-eyed chicken, don't underestimate my martial spirit. It's a very strong beast martial spirit. Qin Yin finally understood why Murong Daren had always concealed his martial spirit. It was because he was worried that others would make fun of him. Second brother Murong, your duck martial spirit should have something special about it, right? Qin Yun said with a smile. My duck martial spirit can fly. It's just that it can't fly that fast. However, it can make me very agile. It's still very powerful. Murong Daren said proudly. Stop bragging. Do you think I don't know your strength? Hong Yin said with a smile. Qin Yun said, I live in the East District. What about you? Do you want to come to my place? Yes. We'll go after we finish eating. Hong Yin hurriedly said, Qin Yun, you actually live in the East District. Amazing. Murong Daren and Hong Yin also sped up their eating. After eating, Qin Yun went to pay the bill. As he was a high-ranked spirit inscription master, he only wanted half the price. In the eastern district of the inscription manor, Qin Yun brought Murong Daren and Hong Yin along a small path. When Hong Yin and Murong Daren saw the exquisite buildings, they could not help but sigh. Hong Yin was the 7th prince, but if he wanted to live in the East District, he had to follow his father. When Murong Daren and Hong Yin entered Qin Yun's building, they saw a beautiful woman in a white dress sitting in the hall, eating fruits and reading a book. When Hong Yin saw Xiao Yuanmei, he cried out as if he had seen a ghost. Red-eyed chicken, have you never seen a woman before? Murong Daren recognized Xiao Yuanmei and knew that Qin Yun and Xiao Yuanmei had a very close relationship. Murong Duck, you don't know how terrifying she is. Hong Yin had originally planned to stay in this building for a few days, but now that he saw Xiao Yuanmei, he completely dispelled that thought. Qin Yun could not help but laugh. He said, Yuanmei, the 7th prince and second brother Murong have pretty good martial spirits, so I let them come here. When Xiao Yuanmei heard this, she took out the mirror with a smile and walked over. What are you doing? Hong Yin immediately felt that he was in danger. Don't worry, just cooperate a little. Xiao Yuanmei used a threatening tone to tell Hong Yin to cooperate with her. Very quickly, Xiao Yuanmei collected Hong Yin's dragon flame martial spirit and Murong Daren's martial spirit. Murong Duck, your martial spirit is really strange. Xiao Yuanmei laughed. That's right, my martial spirit is unique in the world. Murong Daren said proudly. If I were to get serious, even the dragon flame martial spirit of the red-eyed chicken might not be able to compare to me. Qin Yun asked, 7th prince, when will the martial arts competition begin? Probably in a few days. You can go to the Divine Inscription Palace to register now. I still have things to do, so I'll be leaving first. Hong Yin felt somewhat uncomfortable being stared at by Xiao Yuanmei. After saying that, he hurriedly ran out. Murong Daren also knew how terrifying Xiao Yuanmei was, so he hurriedly left with Hong Yin. These two guys, why are they running so fast? Xiao Yuanmei curled her lips. I originally want to play a little game with them. Not long after the two of them left, a commotion could be heard from outside. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuanmei arrived at the 2nd floor of the building. Looking outside, they saw a large group of people chatting and laughing as they walked on the road. Chapter 404. Soul-devouring spirit snake Qin Yun had heard from Hong Yin that the king-level sects would bring their outstanding disciples to participate in a martial arts competition to compete for the spots to enter the ancient garden. Qin Yin did not know what benefits there would be in entering the ancient garden. Now that all the major powers were paying so much attention to this martial arts competition, they were definitely aiming for the ancient garden. The three king-level sects of the northern region are the Fire King sect, the Mighty Heavenly King sect, and the Overlord sect. They are all related to Totem Pavilion. Especially the Fire King sect. Their relationship with Totem Pavilion should be the deepest. Xiao Yuanmei said. When Qin Yun saw the group of people, he clenched his fists and said in a deep voice, "It's because these fellows are too powerful that Hong Lan has become like this. I won't let them off." Totem Pavilion should only be able to control the northern region. After all, the northern region is the closest to the thorny devil's path. Xiao Yuanmei had wandered outside and knew many things. Qin Yun said in a low voice, "Maybe the disciples of Totem Pavilion will participate as well." Xiao Yuanmei said, "Brother, quickly go and register. There must be a lot of good things in that ancient garden. If those fellows' disciples were to go in for a year, they would be able to create something good that would make them stronger in the future." Qin Yun nodded and hurriedly walked out of the building and headed for the tower. He entered the first floor of the tower and saw many people waiting there to register. The moment he arrived at the Great Hall, he saw Hong Mengshu chatting with a few well-dressed young people. There were both men and women, and it seemed that they were all from king-level sects or the children of other martial kings of the Martial Kingdom. Although Hong Mengshu was a princess, her attire was relatively simple. At this moment, she was wearing a light and elegant white dress with a pair of long ponytails hanging down to her waist. On her pretty and charming face, there was a smile as well as a faint trace of arrogance. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and chatted and laughed with those handsome men and beautiful women. It could be seen that their relationship was very good. Qin Yun did not go over, and Hong Mengshu did not notice him. There were too many people here, and there were many disciples from famous sections. He did not want to make too much noise for the time being. He entered a room and registered inside. When registering, one needed to take out the jade token of the Northern Desolate sect. Qin Yun took out the jade token of the Nine Extinction Gate, surprising the old man. "Are you called Qin Yun?" After the old man recovered from his surprise, he smiled and asked. Qin Yun also smiled and nodded. He came in wearing a hood, so no one recognized him. "You have a lot of strong opponents this time. Among them are disciples of Totem Pavilion, and they also have dual Dao cores. It is said that they also have very strong totems." The old man said in a low voice, "How many disciples does Totem Pavilion have?" Qin Yun asked in surprise. "One." The old man said in a low voice, "When you compete with them, you need to be careful." The old man made a jade token to participate in the competition and handed it to Qin Yun to drip blood on it. Then he said, "If there is no accident, the disciples sent by the king-level sects will also have totems on them. They're so awesome. They actually have totems." Qin Yun exclaimed in admiration. The old man said, "It was all given to them by Totem Pavilion. Totem Pavilion has a powerful inscription master who can carve totem marks on a person's body, allowing them to obtain a powerful totem. However, not everyone can meet the requirements to accept the totem." Qin Yun nodded. "Thank you for your reminder, Senior. I will definitely pay attention." "You're welcome." The old man smiled. "Just be careful." Qin Yun left the room and hurriedly left the hall. Hong Mengshu was no longer there. In the evening, Qin Yun returned to the small building in the East District. He also discovered that there were many powerful auras in the East District. When he entered the hall, he saw Wei Zhongjing sitting on a chair, resting with his eyes closed. "Sect Master." Qin Yun was somewhat surprised as he shouted, "You're back so quickly." Wei Zhongjing had only been out for a few days. "I used my fastest speed to head to the Sword Profound Mountain." When Wei Zhongjing saw Qin Yun, he smiled. "You want to register?" Qin Yun nodded and hurriedly asked, "Sect Master, what's the situation with the Sword Profound Mountain?" The entire mountain has been flattened by me. There is no longer a Sword Profound Mountain in the northern region." Wei Zhongjing stroked his long beard and snorted coldly. "Next up is Totem Pavilion and those king-level sects." When Qin Yun heard this, his heart was filled with shock. Wei Zhongjing had really gone to flatten the sword profound mountain, and in such a short period of time. Qin Yun suppressed the surprise in his heart and sat down. He said, Sect Master, Honglan's martial spirit has returned. All that's left is the exquisite profound fruit. But the exquisite profound fruit is not easy to find. Honglan's poison can't be delayed for too long, or it will spread throughout her body. Wei Zhongjing's expression was solemn. I will let her join our 9 extinction gate. That way, I can help her suppress the poison every once in a while. Qin Yun said with a frown, Sect Master, how long can this last? At most 2 years. That poison came from the ancient demon spider, and only the exquisite profound fruit can completely remove it. Wei Zhongjing said, You should also know that the martial art competition in the Inscription Royal City is aimed at the ancient gardens, right? Sect Master, are you saying that there is an exquisite profound fruit in the ancient gardens? Qin Yun's heart stirred as he hurriedly asked, Definitely. The ancient demon spider is a poisonous creature in the ancient gardens. However, to enter the ancient gardens, one needs a garden pass. Wei Zhongjing sighed helplessly. Even if you can obtain the qualifications to enter, you won't be able to enter without the pass provided by a king-level sect. Qin Yun hurriedly took out a thin golden token and handed it to Wei Zhongjing. He said, Sect Master, take a look. Ancient Garden Pass. When Wei Zhongjing saw it, he suddenly stood up from his chair and looked at Qin Yun in astonishment. Little Yin, where did you get it? An elder of mine left it for me. Qin Yun did not elaborate. Only king-level sects have them. It said that there are only about 20 of them. Wei Zhongjing looked carefully before returning the pass to Qin Yun. Qin Yun said, Let's see if we can obtain the qualifications. This is indeed not easy because those fellows all have totems. However, you don't have to put too much pressure on yourself. If you can't do it, we'll think of another way. Wei Zhongjing patted Qin Yun on the shoulder and said, I'm going to rest. It was already dark, and Xiao Yuanmei had returned to her room early to rest. As for Qin Yun, he continued to think about the ancient gardens in the hall. Late at night, just as Qin Yun was about to return to his room, he saw Wei Zhongjing suddenly walk out of his room. Someone's approaching. Wei Zhongjing hurriedly transmitted his voice to Qin Yun. He also signaled Qin Yun to not make a sound and hide. Qin Yun and Wei Zhongjing hurriedly hid beside the tables and chairs in the hall. In the quiet hall, the sound of very light footsteps and a very weak and peculiar aura suddenly came. Soon after, something suddenly penetrated through the closed door. It was a black-clothed old man. On his arm, there was a small black snake. Qin Yun was alarmed. He never expected that the black-clothed old man would be able to penetrate through the door without destroying it. This was a very miraculous power. What surprised him the most was that the small snake on the old man's arm was the soul-devouring spirit snake that Mo had mentioned. There was a weak light in the hall. Qin Yun could clearly see the old man's face. His skinny face was filled with wrinkles, and his pair of dark green eyes emitted a cold light. This old man's entire body gave off a very sinister feeling. Just as the old man entered the middle of the small hall, he realized that something was amiss. Just as he was about to leave, Wei Zhongjing suddenly ran out and struck the old man's abdomen with his palm. Following that, Wei Zhongjing released a fire whip and tied up the black-clothed old man. He also grabbed the small black snake. You are Wei Zhongjing. The old man was incomparably astonished. Why are you here? Qin Yun also walked out and said, Sect Master, this is the fellow who took away Honglan's martial spirit. I didn't expect him to come here. Wei Zhongjing looked at the small snake and said, This is a soul-devouring spirit snake. It takes 1,000 years to hatch, and then 2,000 to 3,000 years to awaken the ability to devour souls. It is a very precious spirit beast. In Totem Pavilion, only soul refiners can possess this kind of spirit snake. At this moment, Xiao Yuanmei also came out of her room. When she learned that someone had ambushed them, she was extremely excited. She took out a few poison needles and walked over. She said, Old man, quickly hand over the crimson orchid martial spirit. Otherwise, I'll stab the poison needle into your body. The crimson orchid martial spirit is not in my hands. Don't do anything to me. I am the only soul refiner of Totem Pavilion in the martial desolate land. If I die, Totem Pavilion will not let you off. The old man's face was filled with panic as he spoke. Then why are you here? Wei Zhongjing said coldly. The black-clothed old man's voice trembled as he spoke in fear. My spirit snake sensed that there were a few good martial spirits here, so I couldn't help but come over to take a look. I have no ill intentions. I just want to see those rare and powerful martial spirits. Wei Zhongjing glanced at Qin Yun, indicating that he could begin. Qin Yun took out a set of flag array and said with a smile, I'll set up a soundproof array first. You can't kill me. The elders of our Totem Pavilion are all here, and they are all martial kings. The black-clothed old man was only at the peak of the Xian martial realm, but he had met Wei Zhongjing. The black-clothed old man also knew that he could not wander around in the East District. However, the spirit snake had sensed a very strong martial spirit, which made him greedy. He could not help but run over to take a look. Qin Yun's Nether Sun martial spirit, Vibration martial spirit, and Xiao Yuamei's Mirror martial spirit were all extremely powerful and rare. It was no wonder that the spirit snake was so sensitive. What are you doing? When the black-clothed old man saw Qin Yun set up the soundproof array, he became even more alarmed. After Qin Yun was done, he walked to the old man's side and said with a smile, Senior is a soul refiner, right? What a coincidence. This kid is also a soul refiner. Now, I'll let Senior see if my soul refining technique is powerful enough. Chapter 405. Divine Ability Martial Spirit. Qin Yun was filled with curiosity towards the black-clothed old man's martial spirit. Just now, he had witnessed the black-clothed old man use the legendary wall-piercing technique to pass through the door. Senior, your martial spirit should be very special, right? Qin Yun's face was filled with a smile of anticipation. He pressed his hand on the old man's abdomen and used the soul extraction technique. The black-clothed old man immediately screamed, You all, let me go. The black-clothed old man shouted in pain. At this time, Feng Honglan, who was in the secret room, also hurriedly walked out. The moment she came out, she saw the black-clothed old man and could not help but cry out in alarm. She never expected that the old man who had extracted her martial spirit would have his soul extracted by someone else. When the black-clothed old man saw Feng Honglan, he felt even more despair. Old fellow, when you extracted someone else's martial spirit, you never thought of this day, right? Xiao Yuanmei laughed tenderly. This is called evil has evil retribution. Don't worry, in the future, the fellows from Totem Pavilion will also end up like you. Xiao Yuanmei impatiently took out her small mirror and prepared to look at the black-clothed old man's martial spirit. With Wei Zhongjing here, the black-clothed old man was unable to self-destruct his Dao core. He could only watch as his martial spirit was extracted. When Qin Yun extracted the martial spirit, everyone was astonished. The martial spirit was actually blue. The red martial spirit was a variant martial spirit. It only had a specific effect at the spirit realm. As for a blue martial spirit, Qin Yun had never heard of it before. Xiao Yuanmei also looked at Wei Zhongjing in surprise and hurriedly asked, Grandpa Wei, what kind of martial spirit is this blue martial spirit? Qin Yun placed the martial spirit into the soul-sealing pearl and was extremely curious. This is a divine ability martial spirit. Wei Zhongjing said in pleasant surprise, after awakening this martial spirit, one can master the divine abilities and spells that come with a martial spirit. When the black-clothed old man saw his martial spirit in Qin Yun's hands, his heart died. He regretted coming to this small building and hated the soul-devouring spirit snake to death. It had brought him into a pit of fire and caused him to suffer. My penetration divine ability, martial spirit. Quickly return it to me. The black-clothed old man said with a sinister expression, You will definitely die a horrible death. I am very important to Totem Pavilion. I'm the only sole refiner of Totem Pavilion in the northern region. Once I die, Totem Pavilion will definitely kill your 9 extinction profound gate. Wei Zhongjing sneered. Back then, our 9 extinction profound gate did not have a martial king expert. Even Totem Pavilion did not exterminate our 9 extinction profound gate, let alone now. Xiao Yueme promptly used her mirror to look at the divine ability martial spirit. After successfully recording it, she happily smiled and said, I also have this divine ability martial spirit. When the black-clothed old man saw Xiao Yueme's martial spirit, he was even more shocked. Just as he was about to speak, he was thrown into a furnace by Wei Zhongjing. Grandpa Wei, you came back from Sword Profound Mountain. Are you injured? Feng Honglan asked worriedly. There's no injury at all. The Sword Profound Mountain was flattened by me. This group of fellows had previously restricted others from selling the purple frost mysterious grass. They were clearly targeting me. Wei Zhongjing smiled. Miss Honglan, you have also been expelled by the Divine Sound Profound Mountain. How about joining our 9 extinction Profound Gate? Honglan, you're very good at growing flowers and plants. If you enter our 9 extinction Profound Gate, you can help us grow spirit herbs. Qin Yun hurriedly said. Do you really not despise me? Feng Honglan said in a low voice. How is this possible? Wei Zhongjing said with a smile. Our 9 extinction Profound Gate has never rejected an outstanding disciple like you. When Feng Honglan saw how well Qin Yun and Wei Zhongjing treated her, I did not despise her at all. She happily agreed. Honglan pays her respects to Sect Master. Feng Honglan hurriedly bowed to Wei Zhongjing. Our 9 extinction Profound Gate doesn't have that much etiquette. As long as we help each other and respect each other within the sect, that's enough. Everyone is harmonious, just like family. Wei Zhongjing also said with a happy smile. In all these years, the 9 extinction Profound Gate had only accepted a few disciples. Little girl Yuan, do you want to join our 9 extinction Profound Gate? Wei Zhongjing asked with a smile. No, I like to be free and unfettered. Xiao Yuan smiled tenderly and said, If you want me to be an elder of the 9 extinction Profound Gate, then I can consider it. Little girl, you want to be an elder? That's very tiring. Qin Yun scolded with a smile. Then I won't do it. Xiao Yuan curled her lips and said, It's getting dark. I'm going back to sleep. Qin Yun looked at Feng Honglan and asked, Honglan, how is your crimson orchid martial spirit? It's gradually getting better. It's just a little small. It will definitely grow up in the future. Although Feng Honglan only revealed a pair of beautiful eyes, one could tell from her eyes that she was extremely happy. Feng Honglan also returned to her room and continued cultivating her martial spirit. Wei Zhongjing and Qin Yun were in the hall. Little Yin, you have to keep your soul refining technique a secret. If Totem Pavilion finds out, it won't be good, Wei Zhongjing said. Those who know that I have mastered the art of soul refining are all people I trust. Qin Yun smiled. Sect Master, the martial spirits in the martial desolate land are really varied. That's right. There are many strange martial spirits that I have never even heard of before. Wei Zhongjing said, Not only martial spirits, there are also countless other miraculous things in the 9 desolate lands. Qin Yun recalled the mysterious Cloud Dragon Mountain Range and asked, Sect Master, has the dragon in the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range been killed? No, that dragon is very strong. It's not that easy to kill. The Hong Ing Martial King fought with that dragon and came back injured. Wei Zhongjing frowned and said, The Cloud Dragon Mountain Range should be the most mysterious place in the martial desolate land. Qin Yun recalled what Zi Qingcheng had said before. The tomb that Jian Xuanzi and company had discovered was not the real immortal graveyard. Originally, we all thought that there was only one immortal tomb in the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. But now, it seems that there are many immortal tombs in the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range. When Wei Zhongjing thought of this matter, he could not help but feel troubled. Sect Master, what kind of legend is there in the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range? Why are there so many immortal tombs? Qin Yin felt a lot more at ease now. That was because the truly strongest immortal tomb could only be reached by the immortal graveyard diagram. The legends are just those. That is to say, there is an immortal tomb inside. The burial items in the immortal tomb are all immortal items from the immortal desolate land. The immortal desolate land of the 9 desolate lands was an ancient desolate land above the spirit desolate land and the magical desolate land. If he wanted to go to the immortal desolate land, he had to go to the spirit desolate land. Then why doesn't everyone go to the immortal desolate land? Wouldn't that be a lot of immortal items? Qin Yin asked curiously. Wei Zhongjing shook his head and said, if you want to go to the immortal desolate land, you must first go to the spirit desolate land. And there is a huge door leading to the spirit desolate land. Even if many martial kings join hands, they would still be unable to open that door. Even if we open the door to the spirit desolate land, we still have to pass through that terrifying passageway to enter the spirit desolate land. Qin Yin now knew how difficult it was to enter the spirit desolate land. Little Yin, go rest. Wei Zhongjing patted Qin Yin on the shoulder. Qin Yin returned to his room and thought about Siekaru and the immortal graveyard. Then, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next morning, Xiao Yuanmei knocked on Qin Yin's door and shouted softly, Brother, someone wants to challenge you. Qin Yin had just woken up when he heard the news. He hurriedly opened the door and said with a frown, Challenge me. Is a martial arts competition? Go send him away and let him fight again when the martial arts competition begins. No, there's a guy who found out that you're an inscription master and said that he wants to compete with you. Xiao Yuanmei said, I don't know when the news spread, but it said that you're a high-ranked inscription master. When I was in the Northern Spirit City, Yushan knew that I was a high-ranked inscription master. It should have been exposed at that time. Qin Yin thought for a moment and said with a smile, They only know that I'm a high-ranked inscription master. They don't know that I've become a spirit inscription master. But are you going to deal with that guy? Xiao Yuanmei said, I'm too lazy to go. Qin Yin waved his hand. I have other things to do. Xiao Yuanmei continued, That guy seems to be from the mighty Heavenly King sect, and he's very young and very arrogant. The moment he saw the Hong Ing martial king, he said that he wanted to marry big sister Dreaming Pig. Mengshu isn't blind. She shouldn't be marrying the wrong person. Qin Yin smiled. I don't want Dreaming Pig to marry that bastard, and it seems like the Hong Ing martial king is going to agree. Xiao Yuanmei hurriedly pulled Qin Yin's hand. If that idiot Dreaming Pig marries that bastard, she will be bullied miserably. Qin Yin said with a smile, All right. I really couldn't tell that you would care so much about Mengshu. I'm just concerned about her, so what? She also saved your life in the palace. You can't just watch her marry that bastard. Xiao Yuanmei pulled Qin Yin out of the room. You're the best at helping a girl get rid of an engagement. If you don't do it, who else will do it? Yuanmei, where the sect master in Honglan? Qin Yin asked. The sect master brought Honglan to find his friends. He said that he was suppressing the poison in Honglan's body. Xiao Yuanmei pulled Qin Yin out of the building and anxiously ran towards the tower. On the second floor of the Divine Inscription Palace Tower, there was a luxurious hall. Here, there were many distinguished people chatting with each other. The entire hall was very lively. After Xiao Yuanmei pulled Qin Yin up, she shouted, Chu Longjia, Qin Yin is here. Didn't you say that you wanted to challenge his inscription technique? Hurry up and come out. The bustling hall suddenly became very quiet. Everyone immediately looked towards the door. Xiao Yuanmei was wearing a simple and elegant white dress, while Qin Yin was wearing a set of black clothes. Both of them looked very simple and plain, but their temperament was not inferior to the luxuriously dressed disciples of famous sections. Everyone knew that Qin Yin had come and injured Princess Chen Wei. He had taken away Feng Honglan, who had her martial spirit crippled and her appearance disfigured. Princess Chen Wei had been beaten 100 times. This matter had spread throughout the entire Inscription Royal City, causing her to lose all her face. It also made Song Wu Wang extremely angry. Song Chen Wei had originally participated in the beauty contest, but now she couldn't even enter the inscription manor. Many people here had never seen Qin before, so they were sizing him up very seriously. Everyone admired Qin very much. He dared to hit someone in the inscription manor, and it was Princess Chenwei at that. Not just anyone had such courage. Chapter 406. Refining with bare hands. After everyone opened up a path, a man wearing a green luxurious robe slowly walked out. It was Chu Longjia. Chu Longjia looked a little thin and had an ordinary appearance. However, his entire body was filled with confidence, and his face was filled with arrogance. Hong Mengshu, the Hong Ying martial king, and a group of old and middle-aged men with high status also hurriedly walked over. Chu Longjia was at the 4th level of the martial Dao realm. He was in his 30s and a disciple of the mighty heavenly royal sect. He was a high-ranked inscription master, and he was also a disciple of an ancient family. No matter what, he was extremely outstanding. Chu Longjia, Qin Yun is here. Tell me, how do you want to compete? Xiao Yuanmei asked. Chu Longjia sized up Qin Yun. He had also heard of Qin Yun's various deeds. Although he was very surprised, he did not show it. Instead, he looked at Qin Yun with disdain. He also wanted everyone to know that he, Chu Longjia, looked down on Qin Yun. Everyone felt that it was normal for Chu Longjia to look down on Qin Yun. After all, Chu Longjia was a very young high-ranked inscription master. Qin Yun, I heard that you're also a high-ranked inscription master. Where's your gold badge? Chu Longjia had a contemptuous smile on his face. Gold badge? I gave it to someone else. Qin Yun said. What he said was the truth. He had given the badge to Mu Feng. When everyone heard this, they did not believe it. Badges were extremely important to an inscription master. Qin Yun had actually given it away. You're really generous, giving away the gold badge so casually. Chu Longjia chuckled, then took out a dazzling gold badge and wore it on his chest. Qin Yun did not plan on taking out his platinum badge. He was afraid that would blind the other party's dog eyes. Hong Mengshu, who was at the side, could not help but chuckle. No one knew what she was laughing at. This was because Hong Mengshu knew that Qin Yun was a high-ranked spirit inscription master. In her eyes, Chu Longjia and Qin Yun's competition was just asking for humiliation. Qin Yun said, cut the crap. You want to challenge me, right? How do you want to compete? Hurry up and say it. Since you're in such a hurry to lose to me, I won't make you wait any longer. Chu Longjia was also extremely confident. When everyone saw that Qin Yun did not have a badge, they began to suspect if he was an inscription master. Now, he could only wait and see the results of the competition. Chu Longjia ordered someone to take out 2 sets of refining tools, 2 sets of furnaces, carving knives, forging hammers, and a sturdy table. Let's compete in refining low-grade spiritual weapons. This way, we can also save time. As Chu Longjia spoke, he walked to the side of the table and continued, we will use the same tools so that we can ensure fairness. Qin Yun said, I choose your set of tools. No problem. Chu Longjia smiled and then walked to another table. I'll use my own low-grade bone steel. The competition time is 2 hours. How about it? Crafting a low-grade spirit weapon in 2 hours was also very fast. When everyone saw how relaxed Chu Longjia was, they all exclaimed in admiration. For Chu Longjia to be able to refine a low-grade spirit weapon in 2 hours, he's really amazing. As expected of a disciple of the mighty Heavenly King sect, with Chu Longjia's talent, he will definitely become a Dao inscription master in the future. Are all the disciples of King's sects so terrifying? Most of the people who exclaimed were from the Xian sects and some aristocratic families. Chu Longjia said with a smile, a competition requires a lot of energy. Furthermore, this is a competition that relies on strength to win. How about we bet some purple coins? 2 million purple coins. When Xiao Yuanmei heard that, she immediately shouted happily. Everyone sucked in a breath of air. They could not tell that this little girl was actually so arrogant. The moment she opened her mouth, she said 2 million purple coins. Chu Longjia, who was originally smiling, immediately fell silent. Isn't that too little? Then 3 million purple coins. Xiao Yuanmei muttered, "That's all I have." Chu Longjie could no longer laugh. He hurriedly looked at the group of elders dressed in golden robes. They were the elders of the mighty Heavenly King sect. Qin Yin said in a low voice. Xiao Yuanmei said, "Yuanmei, you're too outrageous. You've scared young Master Chu by betting so much. How about this? Let's bet 300 purple coins. This way, young Master Chu and the mighty Heavenly King sect will be able to bear it." Although he spoke in a low voice, everyone here could hear him. Everyone could tell that Qin Yin had deliberately said that to mock Chu Longjie. Xiao Yuanmei also cooperated with Qin Yin and said softly, "Is the mighty Heavenly King sect a king-level sect? They will definitely be able to take out 3 million purple coins. Don't tell me they don't have confidence in Chu Longjie." Qin Yin and Xiao Yuanmei echoed each other and unbridledly ridiculed the mighty Heavenly King sect. How could everyone not tell? 3 million purple coins was not a small amount for Chu Longjie. He would never be able to take it out. Hong Yin had also said before that the 2 million purple coins he had were the expenses his father had given him for the next 20 years. However, he had wasted more than half of it in an instant. 3 million it is. An old man from the mighty Heavenly King sect said indifferently. They were a king-level sect. They could not lose face in front of so many Xian-level sections. Hong Mengshu suddenly felt envious of Xiao Yuanmei. That was because Qin Yin would definitely win. When the time came, he would easily win 3 million purple coins. An old man from the Divine Inscription Palace walked out and said with a smile, "This competition will be hosted by our Divine Inscription Palace. Qin Yin will forge armor, and Chu Longjie will forge weapons. When the time comes, the one who suffers the most damage will lose. Are you all ready? Let's begin." He also took out an hourglass and flipped it over. Qin Yin hurriedly took out a large piece of low-grade bone steel. If he wanted to forge a defensive tool, he would need a lot of bone steel. The forging steps would also be a bit complicated. However, the advantage was that defensive tools were usually sturdy and not so easily damaged. After Qin Yin injected the flames into the furnace, he suddenly realized that there were some cracks inside the furnace. He hurriedly shouted, "This furnace is broken. Qin Yin, you chose this yourself. It's already starting, and you only said it now. Are you afraid?" Chu Longjie sneered. "Maybe you broke it yourself?" An old man from the mighty Heavenly King sect said. Qin Yin hurriedly grabbed the forging hammer and realized that it was also broken. There was a problem with the spirit inscriptions inside. He could not help but curse in his heart. Then, he went to look at the carving knife. There was a problem with it as well. It was unable to inject the power of the blood soul. I was careless. This group of fellows, even if they knew that I would choose the set of tools that Chu Longjie chose just now. When Qin Yin realized that he had been tricked, he could only blame himself for being careless. He had checked the tools earlier and found that there were no problems with them. However, he did not expect that there would be a problem with the tools after injecting the flames. It was obvious that those tools had been specially refined to set a trap for him. Qin Yin thought to himself, if I had not chosen Chu Longjie's, Chu Longjie would have said that the tools were broken from the very beginning and given him a better set. Mother Kerr, this group of fellows are really scheming. When Xiao Yuanmei saw Qin Yin's gloomy expression, she hurriedly asked, "Brother, what's wrong? Other than this table, no other tools can be used." Qin Yin said slowly as he thought of a solution. "Qin Yin, you chose this set of tools yourself, and you have also checked it. Why did you only say that there was a problem now? Do you want to go back on your word? You promised to bet 3 million purple coins." Chu Longjie said proudly. Xiao Yuanmei's face was also cold as she stomped her feet in anger. Most of the people present were biased towards the mighty Heavenly Royal sect. These Xian sects all wanted to curry favor with the king-level sections. Furthermore, the elders of the king-level sects were all here. Many people began to criticize Qin Yin, saying that he was going to go back on his word. "Mengshu, do you think Qin Yin can win?" A middle-aged man wearing a golden robe asked Hong Mengshu in a low voice. "Father, how would I know? Qin Yin's tools can't be used anymore." Hong Mengshu was also very angry. She glared at Chu Longjia and cursed in a low voice. This group of scoundrels, even a king-level sect, they actually dare to cheat. Hong Ying said with a smile, "The outcome of this competition is extremely important to Chu Longjia. If he loses, not only will his reputation be tarnished, he will also lose 3 million purple coins." Hong Mengshu immediately understood. Chu Longjia was the signboard of the mighty heavenly royal sect. There were a few young martial Dao realm cultivators in the Xian sect, but there were very few young inscriptionists. Therefore, what was worth bragging about in the king-level sects was their young inscriptionists. Whenever they had the chance, they would brag about it. If the youngest inscription master of the royal clan lost to the young inscription master of the 9 extinction profound gate, then others would say that the royal clan was inferior to the 9 extinction profound gate. This concerned the honor of the entire royal clan. Honor had to be protected with true strength. Honor that was protected by despicable means would not last long. Chu Longjia was extremely pleased with himself. Because there was no pressure in his heart, it went very smoothly. In his eyes, Qin Yun had already lost. Qin Yun stood there and stared blankly at the large piece of bone steel on the table, as though he had given up. Looks like Qin Yun doesn't know anything about artifact forging. In other words, the gold badge he showed when he entered the Northern Spirit City was fake. His ability to make fake badges is quite amazing. Look at Chu Longjia. How passionate, how smooth. He has the demeanor of a great master. Everyone kept praising Chu Longjia. Suddenly, Qin Yun's fists turned incomparably red. They were like a pair of burning golden fists. It was the flaming light fist. Qin Yun bellowed in a deep voice as his fists danced wildly. He constantly struck the bone on the platform. He punched out 12 times and then stopped to rub the red bone steel a few times. It was as easy as kneading flour. The old inscriptionists who had been praising Chu Longjia were all dumbfounded when they saw Qin Yun's hand. Everyone knew that even low-grade bone steel would be scorching hot and firm after being burned red. However, Qin Yun was not afraid of the heat at all. Furthermore, the low-grade bone steel was like flour in his hands as he casually kneaded it. The most terrifying thing was that when his fist struck down, there were no alchemy inscriptions, and he was still able to forge the low-grade bone steel so thoroughly. Chapter 407. Lightning Summoning Talisman Array Qin Yun's flame was the Nether Sun purple flame. Only by carefully observing, it would one be able to discover traces of black hidden within the flame. Even without the support of the alchemy inscriptions, he could easily burn low-grade bone steel with a Nether Sun flame. Chu Longjia, who was originally very relaxed, was also shocked by Qin Yun. The large piece of low-grade bone steel was flipped around and kneaded by Qin Yun. It was as if he was making flour and preparing to make a steam bun. Qin Yun's fists were like 2 nimble and powerful forging hammers. They alternated back and forth as they quickly hammered the piece of bone steel, creating bursts of sparks. The bone steel was beaten very thin and then folded into several layers by Qin Yun as he continued hammering. Qin Yun did not even use a furnace or a forging hammer to quickly forge bone steel. He repeatedly folded and forged the large piece of bone steel, increasing the strength of the bone steel. Half an hour later, Qin Yun shot out a shiny black square shield. Next was the stage of inscribing spirit inscriptions. Chu Longjia was sweating profusely. He had just finished forging an axe and entered the stage of inscribing spirit inscriptions. The people in the lobby have been looking at Qin Yun very quietly. That was because Qin Yun's forging process was simply too astonishing. Even those who did not know how to forge artifacts were amazed in their hearts. Xiao Yuanmei also revealed a sweet smile. Her fingers curled around the ends of her hair as she waited for the final result. From time to time, she would stick out her tongue and make faces at Hong Mengshu. Qin Yun gripped the carving knife tightly. After trying a few times, he failed to inject the power of the blood soul into it. Hong Ying glanced at the elders from the mighty Heavenly King sect and discovered that their eyes were filled with pride and relief. It was obvious that there was a huge problem with the carving knife. Qin Yun hasn't started inscribing spirit inscriptions yet. He just said that there's a problem with the carving knife. It seems like there's really a problem with his set of tools. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to spend so much effort to forge the materials. I have to say, he's still very strong. The moves he revealed just now are not something that a high-ranked inscription master can do. Everyone looked at Qin Yun with a frown and discussed in low voices. Xiao Yuanmei began to worry again. After a few attempts, Qin Yun sighed softly and put the carving knife aside. He closed his eyes as if he was gathering his strength. Veins popped out on his forehead, and white steam rose from his hair. The sleeve of his left arm was also gradually emitting a white mist. Just when everyone was curious about what he was doing, they saw him use the fingers of his left hand to draw on the shield. What was even more frightening was that a drop of golden red water seeped out from his fingertip. It looked like golden red blood. It was the power of the blood soul. All the inscription masters present were moved as they sucked in a breath of cold air. He condensed the power of his blood soul and used his hand as a carving knife to inscribe spirit runes. This was an extremely high realm. Many of the spirit inscriptionists present felt ashamed of their inferiority. Although Qin Yun's finger is condensed with a very strong blood soul power, it is extremely stable and can move very smoothly. He even released a mist that enveloped his hand and shield, preventing others from seeing his high-grade solid inscription. Inferior-grade spirit weapons required 1 or 2 sets of spear inscriptions. Right now, Qin Yun was inscribing 2 sets of high-grade solid inscriptions. Solid inscriptions could make the entire spirit artifact stronger. They were also relatively common spirit inscriptions on defensive equipment. Qin Yun quickly completed the dark part of the inscription and began inscribing the bright lines. Everyone immediately watched with wide eyes. When Qin Yun was inscribing the bright lines, it was as if he was using his fingers to draw. It looked extremely easy and simple. In fact, this was not easy at all. Everyone could tell that Qin Yun's entire body was drenched in sweat. He was extremely serious as he focused all his energy on inscribing spirit inscriptions. Only by being extremely familiar with spirit inscriptions can one reach such a realm. The old man in charge of the competition exclaimed, "His mastery of inscriptions should far surpass that of many high-level inscription masters." At this moment, most of the inscription masters were discussing the technique that Qin Yun was using. They were all discussing the key points and essentials. In comparison, Chu Longjie was not the focus of attention. The progress of the two was about the same, but Chu Longjie had used a tool, while Qin Yun had not. In comparison, Chu Longjie's was far inferior. The expressions of the elders from the mighty heavenly royal sect were extremely ugly. At this moment, they could tell how terrifying Qin Yun's inscription talent was. Those who did not believe that Qin Yun was an inscription master had no choice but to believe it now. 2 hours had finally passed. Qin Yun was the first to finish forging a low-grade spirit shield. Following that, Chu Longjie also finished forging an axe. Qin Yun heaved a long sigh and said with a smile, "Let's begin the test." The elder from the inscription palace walked over and took Qin Yun's shield and Chu Longjie's axe. "Marshal King Hong Ying, I wonder if you could do me a small favor and test the axe and shield together." The old man smiled. "No problem," Hong Ying said with a smile. The old man threw the axe to Hong Ying and said with a smile, "You and I will only use the strength of our bodies." Hong Ying hurriedly caught the axe and walked over. He chopped down at the old man's shield. With a loud bang, the people nearby were shocked to their core. Just now, there had been a burst of sparks. It could be seen that the collision was extremely violent. The axe in Hong Ying's hand had already shattered. As for the shield, it had only caved in and had not been broken. The old man from the inscription palace showed everyone the shield and said with a clear smile, "As everyone could see, this shield is extremely sturdy. The victor of this competition is Qin Yun." Everyone immediately fell silent and did not say a word. Because the mighty heavenly royal sect had lost, they were worried that they would vent their anger on the king-level sects, so they could only remain silent. Chu Longjia's expression was extremely ugly. The arrogance from before was gone as he clenched his fists tightly and looked at Qin Yun. "You've lost 3 million purple coins." Xiao Yuanmei ran over with a smile and took out a purple card to receive the purple coins from the old man from the mighty heavenly royal sect. With so many people watching, the old man did not act shamelessly. It was already embarrassing enough for Chu Longjia to lose. If he would act shamelessly again, it would be even more unsightly. I refuse to accept this," Chu Longjia suddenly shouted. "So what if you don't accept it?" Xiao Yuanmei smiled and said, "You used a tool, and he won against you without using a tool. You still don't accept it? If you have the guts, why don't you use a tool to refine an axe?" Chu Longjia was immediately infuriated. He really wanted to slap Xiao Yuanmei, especially when he thought about how the mighty heavenly royal sect had lost 3 million to Xiao Yuanmei. He became even angrier. "Artifact forging is not my forte. I am best at talisman crafting," Chu Longjia said. "Qin Yun has defeated me in artifact forging, but that does not mean that he is better at talisman crafting than me." Xiao Yuanmei smiled tenderly and said, "You still want to compete? How about we bet 6 million this time?" The elders of the mighty heavenly royal sect were also unconvinced by their loss. An old man said, "If we don't compete in talisman crafting, let's compete in talisman arrays. How about it? 6 million will follow." "How do we compete?" Qin Yun asked. He had also created a talisman array before, but it was a ghost suppression talisman array. He had never tried creating a talisman array during the competition. Lightning summoning talisman array. After it is completed, whoever attracts the most lightning will win, the old man in charge said. After the talisman array is completed, place the thunder accumulation pearl in the middle of the talisman array. As everyone knows, the stronger the condensed energy, the heavier it will be. Qin Yun asked, "What about the tools?" "Prepare your own tools." The old man from a mighty heavenly royal sect said, "But everyone is using low-grade spirit inscriptions. The Divine Inscription Palace is responsible for providing low-grade spirit inscriptions, so they cannot hide it when inscribing dark lines. This will be very fair." Just now, the spirit inscriptions carved on Chu Longjia's axe were mid-grade spirit inscriptions. They were definitely inferior to Qin Yun's high-grade solid inscriptions. Therefore, the mighty heavenly royal sect was unconvinced by their loss. They felt that Chu Longjia's level of inscriptions was stronger than Qin Yun's. "All right," Qin Yun agreed. "Also, the talisman paper used will be provided by the Divine Inscription Palace. We will only be inscribing spirit inscriptions," the old man said again. Qin Yun was more at ease with the Divine Inscription Palace, so he nodded in agreement. 2 hours to create a low-grade talisman array. The old man from the Divine Inscription Palace said before giving Qin Yun and Chu Longjia 5 large talisman papers each. The talisman paper was very thin and could be used once. This made it easier to inscribe spirit inscriptions. The talisman paper used to create the talisman array was relatively large, enough for a person to sit on. Talisman arrays were different from spirit arrays because they could only be used once or a few times before being scrapped. The materials used to create them were relatively simple, and the process of creating them was also very fast. The Divine Inscription Palace also provided low-grade energy-gathering spirit inscriptions and low-grade thunder spirit inscriptions. To create a low-grade lightning talisman array, one only needed these 2 spirit inscriptions. These were common low-grade spirit inscriptions and could also be sold. Chu Longjia took out a golden bright carving knife. It looked very beautiful and luxurious as it flickered. Many of the inscription masters present looked at the carving knife with incomparable envy. "That's a low-grade Xian artifact carving knife." Many spirit inscription masters only use high-grade or royal-grade carving knives. Chu Longjia is so young, and yet he has such a level of carving knife. How enviable! Those inscription masters looked on with incomparable envy. A Xian artifact level carving knife required blueprints and special materials to refine. It was extremely expensive. At this moment, in the competition to create talisman arrays, the materials and spirit inscriptions were all the same. If one wanted to win, they would have to work hard on the fineness of the spirit inscriptions. With a good carving knife, one could increase the finesse of the spirit inscriptions. When Qin Yun saw Chu Longjie's determined expression, he felt disdain in his heart. If it was a competition of inscription tools, his mental resonance Xian pen would be able to throw Chu Longjie off by several streets. Complete in 2 hours. Begin. The old man from the divine inscription palace shouted. Qin Yun only took 2 glances at the low-grade Thunder Spear inscriptions and the low-grade Energy Gathering Spear inscriptions before immediately beginning to inscribe. After he spread out the large talisman paper, he took out the mental resonance Xian pen and quickly drew spear inscriptions on it. In contrast, Chu Longjie was extremely careful as he slowly moved the tip of the knife. The Hongning martial king was somewhat surprised when he saw this. He asked the spirit inscription master beside him, "Old Gua, is Qin Yun drawing randomly? This is way too fast." Chapter 408. Crushing strength. The speed at which Qin Yun inscribed spirit inscriptions on the talisman paper was simply too fast. This left many inscription masters speechless. "He's so fast. There's no guarantee of precision." An inscription master said, "This is too fast. It's like drawing on paper with a pen. It doesn't look like he's inscribing spirit inscriptions at all. How is his finesse? Looks like it's okay." The moment Qin Yun held the mental resonance Xian pen, he could not help but speed up. This was mainly because he was too familiar with it, and he was inscribing low-grade spear inscriptions. On the other side, Chu Longjie was extremely slow. When he saw how fast Qin Yun was, he was also shocked. Usually, Qin Yun would inscribe high-grade spirit inscriptions. The difficulty was much higher than low-grade spear inscriptions. As for low-grade spirit inscriptions, they were all simplified high-grade spirit inscriptions. Therefore, to Qin Yun, low-grade spirit inscriptions were extremely simple. In just a moment, Qin Yun had finished creating a low-grade lightning talisman array. Chu Longjie was inscribing a low-grade spirit inscription, and he had not even completed half of it. However, his speed was a relatively normal speed. "I'm done," Qin Yun said with a smile. "I didn't expect there to be so much time left." Qin Yun completed it very quickly. The spirit inscriptions looked very well inscribed, but he did not know how good they were. The elders of the mighty Heavenly King sect were all secretly worried. Originally, they thought that Chu Longjie had a good carving knife and would be able to increase his finesse and crush Qin Yun. But now, the spirit inscriptions that Qin Yun had inscribed were very good, and they looked to be of high precision. If Chu Longjie lost another match, their mighty Heavenly King sect would lose another 6 million purple coins. Adding on the 3 million purple coins from before, it was close to 10 million. It could be seen that gambling was the easiest way to lose money. Someone said, "A low-grade lightning talisman array is worth 2,000 purple coins." At Qin Yun's speed, he should be able to make 10 in 2 hours, right? 10 talisman arrays. That would be 20,000 purple coins. 10 hours of production a day, that would be 100,000 purple coins. In a month, that would be 3 million. Everyone immediately exclaimed in admiration. Although the demand for the lightning-attracting talisman array is not that big, but if we calculate it this way, Qin Yun only needs to endure for a few months, and he will be able to obtain a large amount of purple crystal coins. I just don't know how his glyph array is. If it's really powerful, then this guy is going to make a fortune. 1 million purple crystal coins was a huge amount of wealth for many people. Earning 2 or 3 million in a month and doing it so easily was something that many people yearned for. When Chu Longjie was inscribing spirit inscriptions, it was extremely difficult. According to his speed, he could only make 1 in 2 hours. He wouldn't be able to earn much purple crystal coins even if he continued making them. If Qin Yun really needed purple crystal coins, he would definitely earn them by setting up royal-grade spirit arrays or refining royal-grade spirit talismans. Not only could he earn purple crystal coins, he could also improve his level of inscription. Now, everyone could tell that Chu Longjie was far inferior to Qin Yin. It was simply a competition between an adult and a child. Xiao Yuanmei also walked behind Hong Mengshu and played with her smooth and beautiful ponytail. Hong Mengshu and Xiao Yuanmei both knew that Qin Yin was a high-ranked spirit inscription master. If it was a fair competition, Qin Yin would definitely be able to beat Chu Longjie. This was also the reason why Xiao Yuanmei had dragged Qin Yin to accept the challenge. It was because she could make a huge profit. From time to time, Xiao Yuanmei would bare her jade teeth and look at the few elders from the mighty heavenly royal sect, causing them to gnash their teeth in anger. They were all very worried because it was extremely likely that they would lose another 6 million purple coins. At this moment, in their eyes, Xiao Yuanmei was a little fox who had tricked people to death. She was extremely treacherous. 2 hours were almost up, and Chu Longjie was finally done. Qin Yin, although you can complete it early, what we are competing in is not speed, but quality. Chu Longjie was still very confident in himself. After all, the carving knife in his hand was a low-grade Xian artifact. It could greatly increase the finesse of the inscriptions. The higher the finesse, the stronger the power of the inscriptions. Qin Yin looked at the elder from the Divine Inscription Palace and said with a smile, "Senior, I'll have to trouble you to test the talisman array. If you want to know the result, then come outside with me." The old man took the 2 talisman arrays and walked down the stairs. The color of the 2 talisman arrays was different, so it was easy to identify them and not mix them up. Everyone immediately walked out of the hall and went downstairs to the outside of the tower. When the people on the first floor saw so many important figures, they all followed them out and quickly understood what was going on. Everyone formed a large circle and watched the old man test the lightning talisman array. The first to be tested was Qin Yun's talisman array. The old man took out a thunder storage pearl and placed it in the middle of the talisman array. "Open!" The old man shouted softly, and the lightning talisman array immediately flashed with a burst of lightning. Thunder suddenly exploded in the air as a violent bolt of lightning struck down and struck the thunder storage pearl. Boom! 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 Qin Yun's lightning talisman array had attracted a total of 4 bolts of lightning, and the talisman paper had turned to ash. In the Inscription Royal City, most of the people were inscription masters. They were all alarmed. Even the old man who was inspecting had a face full of astonishment. This was because an ordinary low-grade lightning talisman array could only attract 2 bolts of lightning. The best one was only 3 bolts of lightning. As for Qin Yun, he could actually attract 4 bolts of lightning. This meant that the precision of the spirit inscriptions he had inscribed was extremely high. This was usually at the level of a Xian inscription master. Everyone knew that Qin Yun was not even 20 years old. It was impossible for him to be a Xian inscription master. The most shocking thing was that the speed at which Qin Yun created the talisman array was extremely fast. The Honging martial king said with a frown, "Shu this friend of yours has a very high degree of precision. This is too shocking." Hong Mengshu smiled proudly and said, "Father, you should know how weak that Chu Longjie is now, right?" No. Chu Longjie is not weak. It's just that Qin Yun is too shocking," the Honging martial king said. Chu Longjie and the elders of the mighty heavenly king sect had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. Next, they began to test Chu Longjie's lightning talisman array. Boom! It was only 2 sounds. Everyone sighed with emotion because the mighty heavenly king sect had lost again. Now, there was no need to weigh it. They knew that the lightning condensed by Chu Longjie's lightning accumulation pearl was far inferior to Qin Yun's. The old man's heart was filled with bewilderment. After testing it, he said, "Qin Yun's lightning accumulation pearl weighs 4 jin. Chu Longjie's weighs 1 jin and 8 taels. Mighty heavenly king sect, you lost again." Xiao Yuanmei's smile blossomed as she skipped over. The elder from the mighty heavenly king sect was so angry that he was trembling. He could only take out his purple card and pass 6 million purple coins to Xiao Yuanmei. Qin Yin, you cheated. Chu Longjie was extremely unconvinced. Your skills are inferior, so you blame others for cheating? With so many seniors watching, if Qin Yin had cheated, how could they not be able to tell? Xiao Yuanmei snorted and said, "You were the one who wanted to challenge my brother. I remember that you said that my brother would lose miserably." Now, as she spoke, she walked to Qin Yun's side and said with a smile, "My brother won 9 million purple coins from you. Thank you for sending purple coins to our doorstep." Chu Longjie had been pampered since he was a child. Other than his elders, everyone had to respect him. He had never been treated like this before. Not only did he lose twice in a row, he was also ridiculed by Xiao Yuanmei. This kind of humiliation is unprecedented to him. It completely ignited the anger in his heart. "Damn girl, I'll kill you." Chu Longjie's face flushed red as he suddenly roared and punched Xiao Yuanmei's head. Only Qin Yun, who was beside Xiao Yuanmei, had the time to take action. With a teleportation meteor, his left arm condensed the heavenly lion's lightning force and struck towards Chu Longjie's fist. Rumble. In the instant of the collision, a violent purple-gold lightning flame burst out, piercing through Chu Longjie's entire arm and throwing it out from his shoulder and back. Ah! Chu Longjie's entire arm and shoulder had exploded. Everyone present cried out in surprise. Chu Longjie, who was at the 4th level of the martial Dao realm, was actually severely injured when he exchanged blows with Qin Yun. This was clearly the difference in strength. "Qin Yun, you are so ruthless," an elder of the royal clan said angrily. "Jie is only using his inner force to attack, but you have condensed such a strong Dao power. Are you going to kill him? Watch how I'll take care of you." An elder of the royal clan rushed over. The elder from the divine inscription palace was already standing in front of Qin Yun. He said coldly, "In our inscription royal city, we cannot fight." Everyone saw that it was Chu Longjie who attacked the little girl first. It is only natural for Qin Yun to go and stop him. What was most surprising was that Qin Yun's reaction speed was too fast. In an instant, he had condensed such a terrifying power. This was simply inconceivable. Chu Longjie was at the 4th level of the martial Dao realm. He also had armor on his body, but his body was still pierced through. "Elder, you have to avenge me," Chu Longjie shouted in pain. The previously insufferably arrogant genius, Chu Longjie, was now in such a miserable state. It made one sigh with emotion. Xiao Yuanmei knew very well that Qin Yun had the title of a genius assassin. Those who claimed to be geniuses would not be able to act arrogantly in front of Qin Yun for long. The elder of the royal clan pointed at Qin Yun and shouted, "Qin Yun, if you know what's good for you, come over and kowtow to Longjie to admit your wrongs. Compensate us with 5 million purple coins. Otherwise, you will become the #1 enemy of our royal clan. We will not let you off." Qin Yun said with a sneer, "Apologize? Uft. I'm not afraid of you. If you have the guts, kill me here." "Qin Yun, you and the disciples of the 9 Extinction Gate will be the #1 wanted enemy of our royal clan. Just you wait," the elders shouted angrily. At that moment, Wei Zhongjing's voice sounded. "Royal clan, since you have placed a bounty on the disciples of our 9 Extinction Gate, then our 9 Extinction Gate will not let your disciples off." Chapter 409. Upper position. Although Wei Zhongjing had just stepped into the martial king realm, his strength could not be underestimated. After all, he had killed the heavenly fire martial king. Many people here still had fresh memories of the battle at the Hongwu Imperial Palace. Back then, Wei Zhongjing had killed many profound martial realm warriors. If a profound martial realm martial artist were to face him, they would have no chance of winning. Wei Zhongjing arrived with the masked Feng Honglan. Many disciples from famous sects also knew about Feng Honglan's disfigurement and soul extraction. This matter was done by Totem Pavilion so everyone only sighed in private. They wouldn't stand up for Feng Honglan in public. Of course, Hong Mengshu also knew about Feng Honglan. She quickly walked to Feng Honglan's side and comforted her with a few words of concern. Wei Zhongjing stood beside Qin Yun and looked at the elders of the mighty Heavenly King clan. He shouted, "Mighty Heavenly King clan, you have just arrived at the inscription royal city, right?" Those elders are all at the peak of the Xian martial realm. Facing Wei Zhongjing, who is a martial king, they feel a lot of pressure. "Wei Zhongjing, do you really want to become enemies with us?" The old man asked, his tone also much weaker. "Our 9 extinction profound gate has been targeted by Totem Pavilion for a long time. We're not even afraid of Totem Pavilion, so why would we be afraid of your king-level sex?" Wei Zhongjing sneered and said, "I'm not afraid to tell you that I just returned from the Sword Profound Mountain not long ago. This group of bastards from the Sword Profound Mountain joined hands with the Totem Pavilion to extract little girl Honglan's martial spirit and even destroyed her appearance. Such a powerful sect actually joined hands to harm a little girl. This is simply throwing the face of our prestigious sects. In a fit of anger, I went to the Sword Profound Mountain and destroyed it. At that time, there were also 2 middle-aged men at the Xian martial realm from the mighty Heavenly King sect who came out to resist, but I also killed them." Wei Zhongjing's words caused the hearts of all the elders and sect leaders to skip a beat. Everyone was in an uproar. If this was true, then it meant that the Sword Profound Mountain, a sect that had existed for thousands of years, would completely disappear from the northern desolate land. It had been many years since a profound sect had been destroyed. Even though a group of the upper echelons of the 9 extinction profound gate had been killed back then, they were still able to survive. But now, the Sword Profound Mountain had been destroyed. The most furious was the mighty Heavenly King sect. The Sword Profound Mountain was their subordinate sect, so it could be considered very powerful. Because quite a few Xian realm warriors had died in the Sword Profound Mountain, they had also sent a few disciples to guard the place. But now they were all killed. "So what if I become your enemy? Do you really think we're afraid of you?" Wei Zhongjing sneered. Over the years, the 9 extinction gate was used to being hunted down. With the protection of the 9 extinction formation, they were not afraid of Totem Pavilion's attacks. Just you wait. The elder of the mighty Heavenly King sect left with the injured Chu Longjia after saying those harsh words. Wei Zhongjing sneered. "If we don't destroy a king-level sect, I'm afraid no one will recognize our 9 extinction profound gate as a king-level sect. Right? Xiao Yun, let's go back." Qin Yun, Xiao Yuanmei, and Feng Honglan left with Wei Zhongjing. The crowd only dared to talk after they left. Everyone knew that the 9 extinction gate had previously offended the Fire King sect and killed the Heavenly Fire Martial King, forming a blood feud. And now, he had publicly announced that he would become enemies with the mighty Heavenly Royal Clan and destroy the Sword Profound Mountain. 2 king-level sects were actually bullied to this extent by a Xian sect, and there's no sign of retaliation at all. It can only be said that the 9 extinction formation is too powerful. Totem Pavilion has been unable to break through it for many years, and there aren't many disciples in the 9 extinction gate. They don't have much interaction with other sects, and there are very few disciples who go out. Naturally, they aren't afraid of being hunted down. Looks like the 9 extinction gate is about to become a king-level sect. Only by stepping on other king-level sects can they be recognized as king-level sects. The 9 extinction gate is only missing one Dao inscription master. Otherwise, they would be able to announce that they are a king-level sect. Everyone immediately fell silent. Dao inscription masters were extremely rare and difficult to recruit. The people from the Divine Inscription Palace also heaved a sigh of relief. They were more worried that the martial kings would fight here. Everyone dispersed. They were all very much looking forward to the next martial arts competition. Everyone was certain that Qin Yun would definitely fight. They only felt that even if Qin Yun obtained first place, he would not be able to enter the Ancient Garden without an Ancient Garden Pass. On the way back, Xiao Yuanmei gave Qin Yun the 9 million purple coins she had obtained. She did not lack purple coins right now. She only liked to enjoy the feeling of winning. After Qin Yun and company entered the East District, they discovered many black-robed people surrounding the small buildings. It's the people from Totem Pavilion. When Wei Zhongjing saw this, his face darkened. Qin Yun and company immediately realized that these people were here to find the soul refiner. That soul refiner had been completely killed. Furthermore, he had courted death himself. When Qin Yun thought of this matter, he found it funny. That soul refiner had delivered himself to his doorstep and allowed him to draw the divine ability, martial spirit. He was truly unlucky. The people from Totem Pavilion were circling around Qin Yun's building. It was unknown if they had discovered anything. Don't worry. This is the territory of the Divine Inscription Palace. They can't do anything, Wei Zhongjing said in a low voice as he walked to the front. Qin Yun and company followed behind, feeling somewhat worried. After all, they were from Totem Pavilion and they were not weak. They were all of the Xian realm. From Totem Pavilion, there were 3 old men and 5 middle-aged men. They all recognized Wei Zhongjing. When Wei Zhongjing saw them, he did not make a sound and walked towards the door of the small building. After he opened the door, just as he was about to enter, a black-robed old man quickly walked over and wanted to enter the door. Scram! Wei Zhongjing roared angrily as he struck out with his palm like lightning, sending the black-robed elder flying. Wei Zhongjing, it was indeed you who killed our soul refiner. The black-robed elder vomited blood as he shouted angrily. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Wei Zhongjing stood at the door and looked at the black-robed men surrounding him. At this moment, Qin Yun and company enter the house. Don't pretend not to know. Our soul refiner is dead, and there is the aura of a soul refiner inside. He went in before. The black-robed elder said angrily. Impossible. If someone entered my house, how could I not know? Wei Zhongjing said with a sneer. If you feel that something is wrong, call the people from the Divine Inscription Palace over to judge. If you continue to harass us, don't blame me for being impolite. The people from Totem Pavilion also knew that they could not cause trouble in the territory of the Divine Inscription Palace. They could only leave in anger. After Wei Zhongjing entered, he said with a frown, "Looks like those fellows can sense the aura of the soul, devouring spirit snake." The snake was still in Wei Zhongjing's hands. "Secmaster, how will Totem Pavilion deal with us next?" Qin Yun asked worriedly. "I don't know. In short, after we return, we have to restrict the entry and exit of the disciples. If we need to go out and do something, only I can go out." Wei Zhongjing's expression was somewhat solemn as he continued. "They will definitely send out a martial king to ambush our disciples. That's what they did back then. Xiao Yun, go to that tower with Yuan Mei in the next few days. I'll bring Honglan back to the 9 Extinction Profound Gate first. This will be more appropriate," Wei Zhongjing said. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuanmei nodded. Feng Honglan's body was still poisoned, and her martial spirit had not fully recovered. Wei Zhongjing took advantage of the fact that the martial king of Totem Pavilion had yet to arrive to bring her back first in case something else happened. At noon, Wei Zhongjing hurriedly left the Inscription Royal City with Feng Honglan. As for Qin Yun and Xiao Yuanmei, they headed to the tower and stayed in a suite. In a few days, the martial arts competition would begin. Qin Yun did not know what would happen at that time, so he had to make ample preparations. He began refining the royal grade body, securing talisman. Xiao Yuanmei went out to gather all sorts of information. She mixed with Hong Mengshu and was able to get some information from the Hong Ing martial king. A few days had passed, and he had also refined 4 royal grade body, securing talismans. They were all bone talismans. Xiao Yuanmei woke up very early and reminded Qin Yun that today was the day of the martial arts competition. The location of the martial arts competition was in the spacious plaza inside the Inscription Manor. There were 8 dueling platforms on it. In the beginning, there would be many matches until the victor was decided. Xiao Yuanmei is bouncing in the front. She is wearing a light green long skirt. She looks elegant and charming, like a lively butterfly. "Brother, Dream Pig is also participating, but she shouldn't be able to fight to the end. Qin Yun asked, "In this competition, who will be my formidable opponent?" Totem Pavilion, Overlord Sect, Songwu Country, Sky King Sect, Fire King Sect, Yuwu Country. The disciples they sent out all have totem inheritances, Xiao Yuanmei said. At that moment, Qin Yun was feeling a lot of pressure. Opponents with totem inheritances were definitely not weak. Furthermore, they were all at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. I heard that these warriors with totem inheritances are all very strong. They can easily defeat those at the 4th level of the martial Dao realm. Xiao Yuanmei said again, "Brother, you don't have to be afraid of them. They're at most at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm." After surpassing the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm, one would not be able to enter the ancient garden. Qin Yun nodded. He also wanted to enter the ancient garden. On one hand, he wanted to obtain the exquisite profound fruit. In addition, he wanted to go in and investigate to see if he could find anything related to the 9 Yang Divine Spirit. This was because in the 2nd bead of the 9 Yang Divine Spirit, there was an ancient garden pass, and it was even sandwiched in the mysterious pill scripture. Therefore, after he found out about the ancient garden, he felt that there might be some clues inside. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuanmei arrived at the great martial arts practice field in the middle of the inscription manor. Below the 8 battling platforms, there were many people watching. The people who came to join in the fun were all from the martial arts families or famous sects in the northern desolate land. Qin Yun's arrival only surprised everyone for a short while. Although he was very strong, everyone knew that this martial arts competition was of great importance. The disciples sent by many powers were all top existences in the northern desolate land. The new number 1 beauty of the northern desolate land is here. Someone looked at the golden-clothed woman who was gently floating over from afar. Chapter 410. Extinction Dragon Palm Qin Yin looked from afar and could only see that the woman had an extremely charming face. She wore a luxurious golden robe, making her look very luxurious. He also felt that this woman's temperament was far inferior to Feng Honglan's. Her name is Su Yuka, a disciple of the Overlord sect. She is at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm, 27 years old, 9 Yang spirit vein. Martial spirit is a secret. Totem is a secret. Xiao Yuanmei said in a low voice. Many geniuses' martial spirits and totems were kept secret. This could prevent them from being targeted by others in battle. Following that, Xiao Yuanmei told Qin Yun about the disciples who had totem inheritances in detail so that he could make preparations. All participating martial artists, come to the front. The voice sounded somewhat familiar to Qin Yun. He hurriedly looked at a battling platform in front of him and saw a fat middle-aged man. It was Mu Feng. It's the general director. He's the one presiding over this competition. I'm relieved. Xiao Yuanmei giggled. This guy will definitely not be bribed. It was clearly not a coincidence that Mu Feng was able to appear here. Qin Yun secretly guessed that Mu Feng had told the upper echelons of the Divine Inscription Palace that he was a spirit inscription master. Therefore, the Divine Inscription Palace would guarantee that no one would interfere during the competition. Qin Yun walked up and lined up with the other martial artists. Those who participated in this martial arts competition could not exceed the age of 40. Before that, they would also undergo an age test. Therefore, this martial art competition could also determine the ranking of the young martial Dao practitioners in the northern region. There weren't many participants, only a few dozen people. They were also the youngest and most powerful 3rd-level martial Dao realm cultivators in the northern region. Hong Mengshu stood beside Qin Yun. The pressure on her was not small. That was because she had heard from the Hong Ing martial king that totem warriors were very powerful. Some of them could even face a 5th-level martial Dao realm martial artist with a cultivation at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. You will be divided into 8 groups to compete. Then, the first in each group will compete in the semifinals and the finals. When Mu Feng saw that everyone was present, he said, take out your jade tokens. I'll confirm your identities." The martial artists on the battling platform all revealed their jade tokens. At that moment, Qin Yun looked at a black-clothed man. There were many tattoos on his body. He was from Totem Pavilion. Although no one had ever heard of him, everyone believed that he would be the final winner. Totem Pavilion was much stronger than a few king-level sections. Furthermore, they controlled the secret techniques of the totem inheritance. Some of their disciples had totems and could skillfully use the power of totems. After Mu Feng finished checking everyone's jade tokens, he began to talk about the rules. Weapons and armors were not allowed in the competition, and the way to determine victory or defeat was to beat the opponent into admitting defeat, allowing casualties. When they heard that death and injury were allowed, the eyes of those totem disciples revealed a sinister look. When they were fighting, they could attack without any qualms. Many people below the stage were also amazed. If death and injury were allowed, then there was a high possibility that geniuses would fall in this battle. The martial artists who could participate were all very young and outstanding. It would be a pity if there were any casualties. "Mengshu, you have to be careful," Qin Yun warned in a low voice. "It doesn't matter to me. I'm just here to gain experience and see how strong those guys are." Hong Mengshu also knew that she was not a combat type. Furthermore, she did not have a totem, so she was far inferior to a totem warrior. She also warned Qin Yun, "As for you, don't try to be brave. Those totem warriors are all monsters at the 4th level of the martial Dao realm." "I will do what I can." Qin Yun nodded. He was secretly looking forward to it, because he wanted to see how the totem warriors on this side used their totem power. Qin Yun was assigned to the 5th group. In his group, there was a totem warrior. Furthermore, he was from the mighty heavenly royal sect. The grouping was decided by drawing lots, so it couldn't be done. When everyone saw the grouping, they felt that Qin Yun was rather unlucky. In the group battle, he had encountered a powerful totem warrior. The second group that Hong Mengshu was in also had a totem warrior. It was the black-clothed man from Totem Pavilion. Apart from Qin Yun, there were a total of 6 totem warriors. Coincidentally, they were all in the 1st to 6th group. The warriors who were split into 7 or 8 groups were the luckiest. They all secretly heaved a sigh of relief because they had a greater chance of entering the top 8. In the future, when the rankings came out, they would also be able to rank in the top 8 of the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. They would be able to obtain a good ranking. Only by winning 2 matches in a row could one become 1st in the group. Qin Yun's first opponent was not a totem warrior, but a disciple from the Fire King sect. His name was Sun Yingchen. Sun Yingchen walked onto the stage wearing the unique flame robe of the Fire King sect. However, he still had to take it off in the end, because it could be considered a spirit artifact level armor. Sun Yingchen was tall, and his round face was filled with hostility. His eyes burned with flames and were filled with killing intent. The Fire King sect leader was killed by Wei Zhongjing, so the disciples of the Fire King sect hated the 9 Extinction Gate to the core. Now that Sun Yingchen had the chance to meet Qin Yun, he naturally revealed his killing intent. Sun Yingchen was born in the Fire King sect. He has a 6 Sun Spirit Vein and a Platinum Fire Stab Martial Spirit. At the age of 26, he was at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. Qin Yun is also an expert in using fire. He is only strong and not weak. Previously, he was able to injure Chu Longjia, who is at the 4th level of the martial Dao, with a single punch. It can be seen that he is also very strong. Not necessarily. Chu Longjia was negligent. Furthermore, he specializes in the Dao of inscriptions and is not good at fighting. This Sun Yingchen is very good at fighting. Sun Yingchen has also mastered a high-grade Earth-tier martial skill. Qin Yun's martial skills should be very ordinary. Everyone knows that many of the good martial arts of the 9 Extinction Gate have been lost. Furthermore, he has just entered the 9 Extinction Gate not long ago. The moment Qin Yun and Sun Yingchen stepped onto the stage, everyone began discussing. The warriors on the 8 battling platforms were all ready. The Great Formation had also been activated. Mu Feng smiled and rang a large bell. The bell rang, and the warriors on the 8 battling platforms immediately began a fierce battle. Qin, I'll send you back to the heavens. Ha ha! It was unknown what kind of medicine Sun Ancient had taken, but he had become extremely excited from the very beginning. His face had turned sinister. Sun Ancient dashed forward like a ferocious beast as he charged at Qin. The martial stage was only 100 meters wide. In an instant, he had arrived. When he was more than 10 meters away from Qin, he threw a punch. The platinum flames condensed into sharp thorns that howled like a gust of wind. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Those sharp thorns were also extremely powerful. They were as sharp weapons as they shot over like countless arrows. Qin did not panic at all. He steadily struck out with his palms twice, causing a rumbling sound to echo out. An invisible shockwave accompanied the purple lightning flames, setting off 9 shockwaves that shattered all the fire thorns. When Sun Ancient saw this, he roared furiously. His body charged at Qin like a fiery light. He clasped his palms together and pointed at Qin's body. Like a flaming thorn, he shot out. High-grade earth-tier martial art, sky-piercing palm. Combine your palms and condense your strongest power. When you charge forward, you can pierce through a person's body. Everyone shouted in shock. When Qin saw Sun Ancient's swift and violent attack, he used teleportation meteor steps to quickly dodge. Sun Ancient pierced through and pounced on empty air. However, his momentum did not decrease as he continued to chase after Qin. When Qin saw this, he did not dodge anymore. He hurriedly activated the 9 extinction inner chi and combined it with his Dao energy. He struck out with his palm. When he raised his palm, the surrounding golden light flickered. The palm shadows were like a huge wave, accompanied by the flickering of lightning. The aura was like a dragon as it struck towards the charging Sun Ancient. With a roar, the palm wind howled like a dragon. Its aura was powerful and earth-shattering. Sun Ancient was sent flying by the palm strike and vomited blood. His face was filled with shock. Just as he was in shock, Qin took a step forward and sent out another palm strike. Like an angry dragon emerging from the sea, it set off a myriad of lightning bolts. The palm shadows were like bolts of lightning gathering together. When Qin's palm descended, it was as though he had condensed the power of several bolts of lightning to strike an angry dragon. Boom! When the lightning palm landed on Sun Ancient's body, several bolts of lightning burst out from Sun Ancient's body. In the instant that countless lightning bolts exploded, Sun Ancient's body also shattered. These 2 swift palms ended Sun Ancient's life, causing the martial arts arena to immediately emit a thunderous roar. 9 Extinction Inner Force. Qin has only joined the 9 Extinction Gate for a short period of time, but he has actually cultivated the 9 Extinction Inner Force to such a level. That's the 36 Extinction Dragon Palms. It's said that after cultivating all 36 palms, one can slay a dragon. Qin used 2 palms just now, and they were very coherent. The 2 palms that flowed like clouds and water killed Sun Ancient. Isn't this martial arts competition one way too quickly? Below the battling platform, there were many seniors. They quickly saw through Qin's martial arts path. Of the 8 dueling platforms, the fastest to end the match was Qin's. This was the first time Qin had used the Extinction Dragon Palm in a competition. He was deeply shocked by the power. He was secretly alarmed because once he used the Extinction Dragon Palm, the power would suddenly gush out and it would be impossible to retract it. Qin walked down the dueling platform and wiped his sweat. The elders of the Fire King sect were filled with grief and indignation. They glared at Qin, but there was nothing they could do. The people of the Fire King sect should thank Qin because they don't have to collect their corpses. The one who spoke was Murong Darren. He and Hong Yin were also watching from afar, but they were both wearing masks. Qin looked at Hong Mingshu's martial arts competition. The person she was fighting was a prince of Yuwu country. His strength was not bad, and he fought very steadily. Although Hong Mingshu's martial spirit was not an offensive-type martial spirit, it could give her a very strong inner force and Dao force. She used the Earth Tier martial art, Cloud Eagle Palm, to constantly attack. The palm's shadows were like the wings of a giant eagle, slapping at the prince. When the powerful Tao energy hit him, it emitted a loud bang 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 sound, exploding with a very powerful force, causing the prince to retreat again and again. Under Hong Mengshu's continuous and fierce attacks, the prince was beaten until his face was bruised and swollen. He had no choice but to admit defeat, or else he would be beaten to death and crippled. The other dueling platforms also ended their first matches. Those totem martial artists were all very strong and could crush their opponents. Qin Yun and Hong Mengshu were both in the first round. Now, they were watching the second round very seriously because the winner of the second round would be their next opponent. Chapter 411. The power of the Sea. Qin Yun had originally wanted to see his opponent's fighting style. However, just as the battle began, the person fighting the totem warrior was sent flying in an instant. He lay on the ground, unable to get up. What did the totem warrior of the mighty heavenly royal sect do just now? Someone exclaimed. He just rushed over and didn't do anything, yet he sent the other party flying. What kind of power is this? It looks very mysterious. On the battling platform, the sound of someone admitting defeat could be heard. Victory! The totem warrior of the mighty heavenly royal sect had won in an instant. At this moment, the other totem warriors on the other battling platforms had also won one after another. The disciples fighting against them were all very strong in the sect. However, because they did not have totems and their strength was far inferior, they were beaten to the point of admitting defeat in an instant. The speed at which the totem warriors won was much faster than Qin Yun's. The totem warriors were very heavy-handed. The disciples who were injured by them would not be able to recover without recuperating for a year or two. Hong Mengshu said in a low voice, "Brother Yun, they are really strong." They all went over and defeated each other in one move. Especially that disciple of the mighty heavenly royal sect who was going to fight with you. I didn't even see what method he used. Qin Yun said, "The totem warrior of the mighty heavenly royal sect is called Fan Hating. He is 30 years old and has 7 spirit veins. His martial spirit and totem are unknown. When he rushed over just now, his body produced a powerful force that released a strong impact. Therefore, the moment he went over, the impact also quickly went over and sent that person flying." Qin Yun did not know if the other party had used totem power or not. In short, the other party was very strong. The battles on the 8 battling platforms had ended. There were only 2 people left in each group. These 2 people would fight to obtain first place in the group. Fan Hating stood on the battling platform. He was very tall, and his body was neither big nor small. He had a beard on his chin, and his eyes under his sword-like eyebrows were filled with ice-cold, killing intent and arrogance. He clenched his fists tightly as he looked at Qin Yun, who was slowly walking over. Qin Yun had just won 9 million purple coins from the mighty heavenly royal sect, and he had even injured the youngest inscription master of the sect. This grudge could be considered to have been formed. As a disciple of the mighty heavenly royal sect, Fan Hating also possessed a totem. At this moment, he would definitely not show mercy when competing with Qin Yun. Qin Yun could tell from Fan Hating's eyes that he wanted to kill him immediately. Fan Hating and Qin Yun also looked at each other. The 2 of them stood there without saying a word. Everyone could see that Fan Hating was filled with killing intent. That kind of gaze seemed to want to immediately kill Qin Yun. Furthermore, his entire body emitted a very strong aura, giving people a very strong sense of oppression. As for Qin Yun, he stood there very calmly. It was impossible to see anything from his expression. He looked very normal. Many people are looking at Qin Yun and Fan Hating's battle platform because it is the most interesting. High Tongue, don't give him the chance to surrender. If you kill him, us elders will definitely reward you handsomely. Qin Yun injured Long Jie earlier. Now you have to kill him to let us vent our anger. Wei Zhongjing is not here. Otherwise, we would be able to see how Qin Yun was tortured to death. Why didn't that old guy show up? Was he afraid of seeing Qin Yun die? Ha ha! A few elders of the mighty heavenly royal clan were discussing loudly below. They had lost all face previously. If Fan Hating killed Qin Yun, they would be able to hold their heads high. Fan Hating said coldly, "I won't give you the chance to admit defeat. You're already dead." When Mu Feng saw that the 8 battling platforms were almost ready, he immediately rang the bell. As the bell rang, Fan Hating, who was wearing a black cloak, suddenly flashed over like a black shadow. Qin Yun also knew that when Fan Hating rushed over, his body would definitely release a very strong impact force. It was just that he did not expect that Fan Hating would be pushed over by a very strong force when he was still very far away. Qin Yun, who did not expect that he would be pushed back repeatedly. Furthermore, the energy was like a tidal wave that kept crashing against Qin Yun's body. Wave after wave came crashing against his body. "It's a sea totem," Mo, who was in the storage space, suddenly said. Qin Yun was alarmed. He did not know much about sea totems, but he knew that this was a very strong totem. He also understood why he felt like he was in the ocean. Fan Hating had used the power of the totem from the very beginning. This is a totem that belongs to the power of nature. Mo said, "Although this totem is very strong, it is not rare. Your heavenly lion totem is much stronger than the sea totem." Qin Yun hurriedly used tsunami technique, stirring up waves of tsunami power that messed up the totem power of the sea totem. When Fan Hating arrived in front of Qin Yun, the sea totem power that he released was also disrupted. He was unable to accurately hit Qin Yun, and thus, he was unable to send Qin Yun flying. Qin Yun raised his hand and struck out with the Extinction Dragon Palm. The roaring dragon's roar was accompanied by a flash of purple gold lightning fire as it struck at Fan Hating. Bang! Fan Hating's body was struck by the palm force and was sent flying to the edge of the battling platform. At the same time, Hong Mengshu also shouted that she admitted defeat. She was no match for the martial artist from Totem Pavilion, so she seized the opportunity to admit defeat. Otherwise, she would definitely be seriously injured. The Totem Warriors on the other battling platforms had also ended their battles and obtained victory. As for the Totem Warrior, Fan Hating, he did not crush Qin Yun. In fact, he was even pushed back by Qin Yun. Many of the seniors in the martial arts practice field were in an uproar when they saw this. A Totem Warrior is actually no match for Qin Yun. Qin Yun's strength is too terrifying. He is only at the 2nd level of the Martial Dao realm. A Totem Warrior at the 3rd level of the Martial Dao realm was actually beaten back by him. Isn't he a dual Dao core? Could it be that even Totem Warriors are no match for him? This was because in the previous matches, Totem Warriors had crushed the other warriors. Even though they were both at the 3rd level of the Martial Dao realm and came from a famous sect, they were still defeated by a Totem Warrior in a single exchange. As for Fan Hating's attack, not only did it not defeat Qin Yun, it did not even suppress him. Instead, it was sent flying. This was a humiliation for Totem Warriors. Hong Mengshu came down from the battling platform and came to her father's side. Hong Yun was also here. "Father, can Brother Yun's dual Dao cores at the 2nd level of the Martial Dao really fight against a Totem Warrior?" Hong Yun was also extremely curious. "I'm not too sure, because dual Dao cores are rarer than Totem Warriors. Totem Warriors can be created later on, but dual Dao core warriors can't." Even the knowledgeable Hong Ying could only shake his head. Everyone was alarmed. Many people felt that a dual Dao core could not compare to a Totem Warrior, not to mention that Qin Yun was at the 2nd level of the Martial Dao. Fan Hating was clearly infuriated as the killing intent in his eyes intensified. He took off his cloak and then took off his shirt. His upper body was covered in blue tattoos. It looked like a turbulent sea, giving off the illusion of a huge wave. It was very frightening. Everyone exclaimed softly because they had finally seen a totem. Qin Yun frowned and thought to himself, Mo, is my heavenly lion totem really stronger than the sea totem? The heavenly lion is fire, and the sea is water. No matter how you look at it, he is the nemesis of me. The powerful power of the heavenly lion is not afraid of water, fire, ice, and thunder. The ancient heavenly lion can fight dragons and is not afraid of any dragons. Therefore, the heavenly lion and the dragon are also natural enemies. Mo said. Qin Yun thought to himself, but I still can't use the powerful power of the heavenly lion. The other party can't use the powerful power of the sea totem either. Mo said, don't worry, I feel that he's not your match. Fan Hating attacked again. He spread his arms, and his body trembled. A ferocious wave surged out. Crash! It was a true azure sea. It turned into a furious wave and slammed towards Qin Yun like a giant palm. Hua! Hua! The battling platform was struck by the violent wave, causing a tremor. The entire martial arts practice field felt a strong tremor. Everyone was shocked by this. The power of the great Tao, combined with the totem inheritance, could truly form a violent wave. When the wave came crashing down, Qin Yun's muscles and bones were filled with the power of vibration. As the wave fell, the impact was repelled by the vibrating power. Therefore, when the seemingly violent wave landed on Qin Yun's body, it only made him bend his knees slightly and squat down. It did not smash him into pieces. One had to know that such a powerful wave could tear apart a giant ship in the sea. As for Qin Yun, he was able to withstand such an attack. When Fan Hating saw this, he was also astonished. If Qin Yun was at the 5th or 6th level of the martial Tao realm, he would not be surprised at all if he could withstand his attack. However, Qin Yun was only at the 2nd level of the martial Tao realm. Even Fan Hating himself could not help but suspect that the power of Qin Yun's dual Tao cores was close to the 4th level of the martial Tao realm. If it was an ordinary 4th level martial Tao realm cultivator, they would definitely have been killed by the wave just now. Qin Yun's body was also in pain. The impact just now was extremely violent. He smiled and said to Fan Hating, "Didn't you say that you wouldn't give me the chance to admit defeat? I seem to be able to admit defeat at any time now. Is that all the strength of a totem martial artist? So it turns out that the reason you were acting so mysterious was to scare people. Don't be arrogant." Fan Hating roared as he waved his palms, condensing a large amount of seawater that covered more than half of the battling platform. Under Fan Hating's control, the gigantic ball of azure seawater could transform at will. At this moment, it transformed into a gigantic palm that pressed down on Qin Yun. The palm formed from seawater was as large as half of the battling platform. The speed at which it pressed down was also very fast. There was no way to dodge it, and it was pressed down by the palm of seawater. However, he was not pressed to the ground. Fan Hating shouted again as he controlled the palm of seawater to grab Qin Yun. The gigantic palm of seawater grabbed Qin Yun tightly and turned into a fist. Everyone watched in astonishment as Qin Yun, who was in the gigantic palm of seawater, struggled with all his might. "You're dead for sure." Fan Hating laughed loudly as he charged into the gigantic palm of seawater. Chapter 412. Restraint. Qin Yun was immersed in the water. His body was being squeezed by the seawater, and he was unable to move. His throat was tightly gripped, and he was unable to speak. He, the elder of the mighty Heavenly King sect, laughed happily. Qin Yun doesn't have the chance to admit defeat now. Not to mention being choked by the throat, just being immersed in the water made it difficult for one's voice to be transmitted. He thinks that just by defeating Hai Tung, he can really defeat Hai Tung. One of the elders laughed. Hai Tung is a totem martial artist. How can he defeat him? Just as the elder finished speaking, Qin Yun's body suddenly flickered with a purplish gold light. A bolt of lightning surged out and struck Fan Hating. Fan Hating was immediately struck by the electric shock, causing him to feel incomparable pain. He never expected Qin Yun's lightning power to be so terrifying, causing him endless pain. The worst part was that the seawater was the inner force of his Tao core, and it was connected to the Tao core. Qin Yun suddenly erupted with a powerful lightning power. The lightning followed the seawater and entered Fan Hating's Tao core, striking it with electricity. Water, martial spirit. Qin Yun sneered in his heart as he constantly released his lightning power. Qin Yun and Fan Hating were both immersed in the water. Lightning was transmitted through the water, and anyone in the water would be electrocuted. Qin Yun, who possessed the purple-gold thunder flame martial spirit, was not afraid of lightning. As for Fan Hating, his entire body was twitching from the electricity as his eyes rolled back. He wanted to admit defeat, but he could not speak in the water. The elders of the mighty Heavenly King sect were all astonished and worried. They all secretly blamed Fan Hating for using this move, giving Qin Yun the chance to use his lightning Tao power to attack. Fan Hating has trapped himself in a cocoon. Look at him being electrocuted like he's dancing. He should be in great pain. He's been restrained by Qin Yun. You shouldn't have used seawater to cover Qin Yun. Inside the large mass of seawater on the battling platform, purplish gold electric arcs flashed wildly, causing Fan Hating to feel extreme pain as his body constantly jumped around. Hong Mengshu said in a low voice, "Father, has the outcome been decided?" The Hong-ing martial king frowned and said, "It's hard to say now. Fan Hating is a totem martial artist. He should still be very strong." The other totem martial artists were also astonished by the current situation. Others might not be clear about Fan Hating's strength, but those totem warriors were very clear about it. Fan Hating's strength was comparable to theirs. But now, he was being suppressed by Qin Yun. Everyone felt that Fan Hating had been negligent, allowing Qin Yun to restrain him with lightning. Fan Hating's Tao core is connected to the seawater, but at this time, it is constantly being electrocuted, causing it to be unable to operate normally and unable to retrieve the seawater. Let's see how long his body can heal. Qin Yun's strength is truly not bad. I never thought that an inscription master like him would actually have such a high battle strength. Qin Dong, what are you in to do? Yin to do him. Two. To him. Two. Qin Yin, the yin to Dao to into the water, yin to say to say he to Tian to do to say to Qin Yun's punch in the water looked slow, but he had indeed used the Heavenly Lion's lightning force to strike out with the 9 extinction inner force. When the punch landed on Fan Hating's Tao core, it shattered it. After Fan Hating screamed, Qin Yun quickly walked over, raised his hand, and attacked with Extinction Dragon Palm. The palm descended like a thunderbolt, setting off a storm of lightning and fire. Like a roaring dragon, it slapped onto Fan Hating's face. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Qin Yun's palm landed on Fan Hating's face, causing many purple-gold flaming lightning bolts to explode in all directions like fireworks. Everyone looked at the battling platform in shock. Everyone saw that Fan Hating's upper body had been turned into ashes by the furious thunder and fire Extinction Dragon Palm in the instant of the explosion. The other half of Fan Hating's body fell to the ground with a bang, causing everyone's heart to tremble violently. The totem warrior had died just like that. Qin Yun never expected that when he combined the power of 3 Tao cores to unleash the Extinction Dragon Palm, it would be so terrifying. This was the power of the Extinction Dragon Palm. The power of the attack could be multiplied by several times. The Honging Martial King let out a long sigh. Sure, this friend of yours is really decisive. Hating, an elder roared in grief and anger. The sorrowful cries of the elders of the mighty Heavenly Royal Clan enveloped the plaza of the Inscription Manor. No one else dared to make a sound, worried that they would vent their anger on the mighty Heavenly Royal Clan. When the totem warriors saw Fan Hating being killed, they only sighed with emotion. They did not fear Qin Yun because of it. This was because they felt that Qin Yun's ability to kill Fan Hating was purely a fluke. Everyone could see that Qin Yun's strongest move was only the Extinction Dragon Palm. Fan Hating had tricked himself. Qin Yun had used the power of thunder and lightning to electrocute his Tao core, giving him the opportunity to take advantage of it. Qin Yun never expected that he would be able to kill Fan Hating so easily. He was still somewhat stunned. He had originally thought that he could only seriously injure Fan Hating, but now he had killed him with a single palm strike. Qin Yun has obtained first place in the 5th group. After Mu Feng recovered from his shock, he shouted. He removed the formation and came to Qin Yun's side to prevent Qin Yun from being besieged by the elders of the mighty Heavenly Royal Clan. The sea totem engraved on Fan Hating's body had also disappeared. After all, that kind of totem was engraved on Totem Pavilion. If it died, it would be gone. There was no way to obtain it. These totem warriors had totems carved on their bodies. Every once in a while, they would have to go to Totem Pavilion to have Totem Pavilion help them maintain it. Totem Pavilion was also using this method to make the king-level sects work for them. Qin Yun, you will die a horrible death. An elder's face was filled with anger as he roared at Qin Yun. Our mighty Heavenly Royal Clan and the 9 Extinction Profound Gate will not rest until one of us is dead. 9 Extinction Profound Gate, you're finished. Let's go, we'll go back now and join forces with the Fire King sect to suppress the 9 Extinction Profound Gate. The elders on the battling platform shouted angrily at Qin Yun. Qin Yun stood behind Mu Feng and secretly marveled at the strength of the Inscription Palace. Even though the elders were furious, they could only point at him and curse. I accidentally killed him. Who knew that he would be so fragile? With just a single palm strike, his body disappeared. Qin Yun muttered. Everyone had indeed seen Qin Yun's face filled with shock the moment he struck out with his palm. This caused everyone to secretly take a deep breath. That was because Qin Yun had really accidentally killed Fan Hating. After the elders of the mighty Heavenly Royal Clan finished cursing, they left the martial arts practice field with incomparable anger. Mu Feng also heaved a sigh of relief. There was no need for him to do anything. He shouted, Next, come up and draw lots. Decide on your opponent. Next, it will be the competition to enter the top 4. The 7 or 8 groups were not totem warriors. They were under a lot of pressure and only hoped to draw Qin Yun. Very quickly, the opponent was decided. The one fighting Qin Yun was in the 8th group. He was a prince of Songwu country. His name was Songyu. He was overjoyed. Qin Yun was the same. His heart was blooming with joy. The black-robed man from Totem Pavilion was facing off against a prince of Zhanyuwu country who had a totem inheritance. The totem warrior of the Fire King sect fought against the totem warrior of Songwu country. He was also a prince. The number 1 beauty of a northern region from the Overlord sect was fighting against the 7th group of Fire King sect disciples. Now, Qin Yun completely understood that these martial countries and king-level sects had to cooperate with Totem Pavilion in order for their disciples to obtain the totem inheritance. There were no totem warriors in Hongwu country, which meant that their relationship with Totem Pavilion was not very deep. The 4 battles were also carried out at the same time. Qin Yun walked onto the stage and looked at the chubby Songyu. He found it funny. Songyu was dressed in loose white clothes. His face was full of smiles because he felt that his luck was not bad to be able to fight against Qin Yun. He believed that he could defeat Qin Yun and enter the top 4. Even if he could not defeat a totem warrior, he would still be ranked 4th, far above the totem warriors. After Mu Feng rang the bell, Qin Yun, who had been accumulating his strength for a long time, hurriedly left his spot. Songyu also fiercely charged over. His chubby arm had actually turned into a snake that emitted cold air. Upon closer inspection, one could see that Songyu's arm was covered by the platinum ice serpent martial spirit. This was a beast martial spirit. When released during a martial arts competition, it could increase one's strength. However, his speed was too slow. There were also some fatties among the martial artists. However, some of them were very agile and fast. As for Songyu, his speed was extremely slow in Qin Yun's eyes. Songyu's attack hit nothing but air. As for Qin Yun, who had already dodged, he attacked Songyu's side. As he charged over, he used tsunami technique to punch, causing a few shock waves that pushed Songyu back repeatedly. The inner force turned into a shock wave and was also able to shake away the condensed inner force. Song Yu was preparing to defend, but his defensive Dao force had been scattered. He suddenly felt fear in his heart. He never expected Qin Yun to be so difficult to deal with. His attack power was so terrifying. "I admit defeat," Song Yu hurriedly shouted. Qin Yun, who was preparing to attack, hurriedly retracted his strength. If someone else admitted defeat, and he still attacked, he would be the one to lose. Qin Yun wins and enters the top 4. Mu Feng shouted with a smile. He was not surprised at all that Song Yu would admit defeat. However, everyone was somewhat surprised. Song Yu had only exchanged a few blows with Qin Yun, and he had already admitted defeat. It could be seen that he had suddenly realized that Qin Yun was very strong and was not as simple as he seemed. Song Yu had originally thought that he had picked up a big bargain. He never expected that Qin Yun would be the one to pick up a big bargain. After Qin Yun walked off the battling platform, the other 2 battling platforms also ended their battles. The black-robed man from Totem Pavilion had won. His opponent had admitted defeat. The seductive woman from the Overlord sect, Su Yuka, had also won. As for the Fire King sect disciple who had fought with her, he was severely injured in a single move. In the end, he admitted defeat and left the stage. On the stage, it was the battle between the 2 totem warriors of the Fire King sect and Songwu country. Furthermore, the 2 of them were exchanging blows. From the looks of it, it was obvious that the Prince of Songwu country was not strong enough and was inferior to the Fire King sect. "I admit defeat," the Prince of Songwu country suddenly shouted. The martial artist of the Fire King sect smiled proudly before the 2 of them slowly stopped their cultivation. Everyone cursed in their hearts. These 4 matches were not satisfying at all. They all ended very quickly. Following that, Qin Yun and the other 4 who had won went on stage to draw lots. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.